The only place it can be midnight in the middle of the day, it's Midnight's Edge in the morning. Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is, where you is. I'm Tom Connors with what? With me today is the boss man. Let me try that again. I got a little ahead of myself. Sorry about that, kids. Good morning, everybody. With me today is the boss man, Andre. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Greetings, everyone. And I was about to say Merry Christmas, but Merry Friday. Let's go with that.
Is it Friday already? Oh, that's right. I got crap to do. Shit. I got my oil changed today. I got stuff I got to do this afternoon. You just reminded me what day it was. Crap. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. And welcome, Culture Casino. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. It's been a lovely beginning of the day. I hope that hope it continues. It is. We're coming up on the weekend, which is always lovely. So I'm good. I'm excited. We got a couple things to talk about.
We also have joining us a script doctor from the Great White North. How are you doing?
Oh, staying warm. Envious of Culture's long mane of hair. That's probably keeping him pretty warm.
It is.
He's like a lion.
Yeah.
In a sheep's body.
And then let's greet the audience. Actually, we have the first.
We have one more person. We have one more person. We have one more person yet to introduce.
Yeah,
he's chowing down on a cup of noodles, and he also comes from the Great White North.
That's right.
Andre forgot about me. He was ready to just push ahead.
Oh, but you'll enjoy what I was about to push ahead with.
Oh.
I was thinking about you, if that helps.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to this Friday. I'm enjoying myself and my cup of noodles.
We're glad to have you here. So you. Andre, you were about to say.
Yes, we have something that dropped in Variety just 20 minutes ago. Ooh. And that's when I was thinking of Mr. Chato, because he enjoyed this right up until the last episode. Wednesday has been renewed for season 2 at Netflix.
That's great news.
Yeah, so then they still have time to reveal that she's a closeted lesbian all along, don't they?
Yay! I hope they don't.
Yeah, given the amount of male suitors that were into her and her kind of somewhat into them would be quite a turn.
And it's just one complainer.
Yeah.
I mean, and then that spreads amongst the community.
It's like a virus. Once infection, and it just has to fester and spread.
And
I do hope they get a better Fester for season 2, though.
Yeah, Fester. There's a lot of people who didn't like what's his name is Fester.
Yeah, Fred Armisen. He was not very good.
No,
I didn't like him.
No, neither did I.
Doesn't help that I'm not a big fan of his to begin with.
Well, that's
across the board, really. He's only in there because of his friendship with Tina Fey and his SNL history.
He's okay.
Why? Because Tina Fey's in this thing too?
No, Tina Fey is just a very well acclaimed writer still in.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, what does she got to do with this shit?
I did not like 30 Rock. I'm sorry.
No, I just liked Alec Baldwin in 30 Rock.
I liked it at first, and then it just went off the rails after like the first season. It was just kind of like I liked the concept, and then they just went. I don't know.
Well, again,
stupid.
Congratulations for her success. I will not begrudge anybody's success. I am not jealous of anybody. But yeah, so Variety says that Wednesday is going to be renewed, and there's all that controversy around the fact that Amazon owns MGM, and MGM owned the rights to the Addams Family, and now Netflix is making the money off of a Amazon property. It's all fun. This is
who Netflix needed this? Wednesday because they were not making money prior to that show. That show retained enough subscribers and gained some new ones for them that they were very happy.
Well, and who started this thing with there was a problem with the rights? Because this show, as far as I know, I'm going back, I'm trying to remember, this all would have happened. It may have happened before the Amazon MGM sale, but I don't understand why there would have been any controversy with it all. I mean, that's money coming in MGM's coffers, which is something they don't have.
But we've got the not enough money situation that Zaslav is now grousing about.
Yeah, this could be that, of course, could be an issue, but I think that there were other things that Saslo was griping about first and foremost. What Saslo was griping about was in conjunction with Netflix renewal of The Sandman, and the moment that came across his desk, that's when he saw that, wait a second, they're really screwing us over right here.
Yep.
And to which his underlings, the incumbents who's been with Warner forever, said, but they've always screwed us over. This is how we do it. This is the ways of our people. So let's not rock the boat and change that.
Well, I just don't understand where this whole thing came from, because it's like, people were acting like no studio has ever had a property that was underneath another studio at some point and were sold. Like, we've seen this tons of times over the past few years. Disney is still, through their Fox television studios, has to produce stuff for Fox television.
Right.
It's just the way it works. That's the most recent version of that. But like, why in the hell would there ever be a problem unless somebody can point me to an actual article? Because I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's called a contract. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't get this. Like, I don't understand why this is a problem, or why they would even.
Rights are confusing in Hollywood regardless. You can have the rights to an entire property, but not one character in it. I mean,
well, here's the thing. You want to know why MGM even has the rights to the Addams Family? Because they bought Orion. To be honest with you.
I'm see this fascinates me, because under I mean the two bigger films, right, with Raul Julia and all of that, those rights were under Paramount.
Yeah, there's a funny story to that. I got a little video. You're gonna ruin a video I'll never make. But
I'll be quiet then. But
to be honest with you, there's a lot of people who say, and you're not totally wrong when they say RoboCop 3 killed Orion Pictures. You're partially true. They could have saved their ass. You know what could have saved their ass? They turned around and they sold, as they were in the midst of making it, the rights to Addams Family to Paramount, instead of finishing it themselves and releasing it. If they had done that, that would have probably saved their company at least for another couple of years.
But that
was a huge hit. Huh?
You don't know what's going to
be. Well, at that point, they were in dire straits, right? They had spent all their money on RoboCop 3, which flopped, and there was a couple other big movies they had spent a bunch of money on that didn't do very well, and so MGM bought them up, MGM bought the rights to Orion, but they needed the money, so they sold. That was after that, I think. I'm trying to remember when MGM bought the rights to Orion. Somewhere in that period there.
So weird, man.
Yeah, I think if they would have hung on to the Addams Family, it would have saved the company. At least it would have kept them separate from MGM, I bet.
That's a long time ago.
1993, yeah. 92, something like that, yeah.
It is.
Or was it the 91 the first one come out? That's what it was, yeah.
I think it was 91, because 94 was...
It doesn't sound that long for those of us who remember 1991, but when you think about
30 years ago.
That's more than 30 years.
Yeah. 94 was Addams Family Values, so yeah.
Yep.
I think,
and that's the only reason Paramount had those two movies. Otherwise, that's why the new films have been released by MGM, and all the old shows have always been released by MGM, because that's the reason.
Who cares?
Well, that's rights for you. But I'm not surprised to see that it's getting to season 2, considering it was their biggest hit. I don't know if ever, but it was bigger than Stranger Things, they said, which I'm like, Jesus.
Yep.
That surprises me.
Well,
that it would be bigger than that. I mean, if so, that's like, this is done on par with like one of the most successful Adam installments ever. If it's actually,
it probably would have been
that for Netflix.
Honestly, that's what I'm kind of surprised with, is that they didn't just try to make this a feature. They're probably kicking themselves in the ass right now.
Oh, Alfred Goff and Miles Millers are not feature writers.
Yeah, and Raheem Hamilton's right. I was going from memory, but no, Addams Family Values was 93 actually. So there.
I was gonna say it was like 91 and 93. I think it was.
Yeah, I thought it was 94. I don't know why.
I'm on the record after the initial pilot as saying that if the lead actress ends up being charming, the premise is great, and the fact that they snuck in a Hogwarts clone is brilliant. And I gave it that I thought it was going to be a hit.
Yeah. You know what? I was skeptical about it, but I'm glad that it's successful for a lot of different reasons. And the reason it is as successful as it is, and more successful than Stranger Things, is Stranger Things has, I know we don't want to admit this, but a limited audience, because it's kind of like a horror sci-fi that a lot of people, I mean, that's not the broadest appeal. Wednesday has a more broad appeal.
It's also new, and also episode 3 of Stranger Things was really quite stinky.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was a particularly good lead into season 4. Not episode 3. I mean season 3.
Well, and it doesn't help also that on Stranger Things the kids are now all like 26.
Oh yeah, they're a lot less cute.
Yeah, they're not like, and they've taken too much time in between these seasons. But no, I'm not surprised so much at Wednesday's success because of the Addams Family portion of it. I'm more surprised because it's like basically CW meets Addams Family. That's the part that I'm like, wow, I'm surprised people are gravitating towards that.
And if DC does manage to extend the Harry Potter universe with the previous actors or some similar group as parents, and then we follow the young kids of the parents, it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
That's
probably
too,
right.
Wednesday appeals to the teen audience and the people in their 30s that like to watch teenage shows.
Yeah, that's the thing that I was wondering. I would really have liked to see like a breakdown of exactly who's the audience and the audience demographics here. But anyway, yeah, Paul, I think you're right. That's why we wanted to bring this up, because you've been championing how this had the potential to be like a huge hit. And then this came, and I thought, it's the main story for Paul right here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I always know like the Addams Family is much more popular than the Munsters, for instance. I think they underestimated this a little bit. Huh?
Sure, but I also felt that the attraction to Wednesday was going to be way better than the attraction to the entire family. It has a natural spin that is a bit more modern and fits the demographic more cleanly.
Well, I think this is really a result of Addams Family values. Because if you notice, that's the one time where Wednesday kind of took center stage, and that was like one of the most popular things in that movie. And ever since then, you had the YouTube series where the lady basically played older Wednesday, and it was very popular. In fact, the studio made her stop it because they were planning on doing this. So like, this has always been a concept that's kind of been up in the air. I mean, Script Doctor, I think, was part of that conversation too, where we've talked about, because you were there. When we first heard about this idea, we said, well, it would be better if they would have just done this, with Christina Ricci, had it be her family now. It's the extension of the Addams Family, but this looks like it worked. People are enjoying it. I have not watched it yet. You guys said it went off the rails for the last episode, so that scares me.
I've only seen the first episode, and I was like, to begin with, I was like thinking, why the hell is this popular? But then as
this is why this is popular right here.
Then as the episodes drew towards the end, I was like, okay, this is interesting. I kind of want to see another now.
I was just going to say, though, this is why mainly, like Don Juan said here.
Don Juan. Yeah. I mean, I see that. Well, I mean, for a lot of people, that's definitely, they can't get past the aesthetic.
Goth chicks are going to make a comeback.
And Jenna pulled it off. Which, neither the lead in ROP did, and also in Blood Origin.
Oh. Neither. You didn't enjoy Murfitz Clark's presentation of that Guy Ladriel?
Let me think. No, and also the woman leading up Blood Origin. I mean, I don't understand why you would hire people with no charisma. And Jenna has got tons.
Yeah, blood oranges are no good.
I love blood oranges. Are you kidding?
Blood oranges.
Italian.
I still say we got to sit on our other idea. Script Doctor and I came up with a pretty good one for Adult Wednesday, and that is that Pugsley
trying to kill Pugsley.
not that or his wife actually, because he gets married to a normal chick and it just drives Wednesday nuts. So she tries to have her killed constantly, and it keeps failing.
That seems great.
Because she's like she's destroying the family.
Pugsley goes by the name Paul, and he's no longer kooky and clicky or any.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're like, this is a great idea.
You got to remember the Addams Family itself, though, had a above average cult following.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I was saying. Is like, there was always that fight between the Munsters and the Addams Family, but the Addams Family always came out on top, was my point. They always had the bigger audience and more appeal and more you can do with them, too, because the Munsters are a little more, I don't want to say one note, but they only have like...
Well, also, only the Addams Family is a box office franchise, and not only that, it's a franchise that spans like more medium. The monsters are restricted strictly to television, to like sitcom format, whereas the Addams Family, they started in like a comic strip format, moved to TV, went the detour by animation to TV specials and back to the big screen. I mean, it's been pretty much across the board.
And it's
because of the big screen.
I do got to correct you on one thing. They did have a Munsters big screen film. It's called Munsters Go Home.
And where was this released?
In the 1970s, I think, or 60s.
I remember it.
It had the original cast of the show. I don't remember if it was after the show or during the show, but
I remember back in the day, as a young teen, that show, those two shows, and Star Trek versus Lost in Space were the litmus tests whether I was going to be your friend. So,
which is funny, yeah.
It was either Munsters or Addams Family, and Star Trek or Lost in Space. And if you picked both of them wrong, that's it. I'm done with you. I want nothing to do. Those were litmus tests for me.
Those were going to be choices I was going to do. When I first got into this and started doing interviews and stuff, Paul, you probably would have got asked this if this was something I ended up doing. I was going to do the Beatles Elvis test. It's from Pulp Fiction is where I got the idea. I'm sure it's been around for a while, but it was from a deleted scene where Mia asks John Travolta's character, well, I clearly don't have to ask if you're an Elvis or a Beatles man. You're clearly an Elvis man. And he's like, what do you mean? And she explains that everybody's either an Elvis or a Beatles person, but sooner or later you got to pick one more than the other. So I had this whole test of it, like Elvis or Beatles, Addams Family or Munsters, Partridge Family or Brady Bunch, Lost in Space or Star Trek. It's all that kind of stuff. Just to kind of, it's like a personality test thing.
Well, mine was Beatles versus Ministry, and I picked Ministry.
There you go. You can also do Beatles versus the Rolling Stones as well too.
That's a band I haven't heard for a long time.
I know. My head now has like the catalog's now scrolling through my brain. That's messed up.
But no, the Munsters have always had a little bit more limited appeal. They did try some TV like backdoor pilot movies and stuff like that, especially right after the Addams Family hit big.
Yeah, they were they were cute. They were kind of the monkeys of Monster.
I would race home from school. I would race home from school so I could catch Addams Family, because it was at it was like the afternoon programming in syndication at the time, and it was like the only like black and white program that I would watch, and I enjoyed it very much.
Funnily enough, the Addams Family and Munsters are some of the few shows that still get syndicated without 100 episodes.
It's so great, and then of course then it was
because the Munsters I think only had 2 seasons. Or 3. I know the Addams Family had 3 seasons, but I think the Munsters only had 2.
Wasn't the Munsters an attempt to copy the Addams Family? Wasn't it a straight up?
I think a popular I think they both were being put together at the same time, and it just so happened that they came out around the same time, and there was no real reason but people like to make the whole there's definitely a competition here, but it's just and sometimes they just happen to come out with
Yvonne De Carlo was Canadian, so there was something for us to root for.
Well, what's hilarious is both of those shows, we talk about how, there's no such thing as female empowerment. Both of those shows are built around the female star. Yeah. And most people don't even acknowledge that.
Yes, Morticia was the star of the Addams Family.
Yep, she's giving everybody their lunches. They're heading out the door. And then and same thing with Lily on the Munsters. Is that the Munsters? She's giving out lunch. And Addams Family, she's still the center.
And they're the problem solvers.
In the wicker chair in the Addams Family.
And who didn't think, was it Lily from Addams Family?
No, Lily is Munsters.
Munsters, sorry. From the Addams Family. God damn it. Wasn't hot from the show. I mean, who?
All of them were. Really?
That's true. That's true. There was no.
Wasn't Yvonne De Carlo? Wasn't she kind of like on the other side of her career at that point? Yeah. So this was kind of a reboost to her image. Yep.
And she was one person who did not disparage this, change from movies to TV. I remember. I don't know why one remembers these things, but I remember an interview with her where she just was so happy to do this gig.
Oh yeah, I read interviews where she loved the Addams Family. She took as much home from
the Munsters, Yvonne De Carlo.
Oh, sorry, I'm
Yeah,
confused.
yeah,
But I
from
know
Lily,
who played Morticia loved the Addams Family so much that she took props and things, and there were gifts to her when the show was canceled. That broke her heart.
Well, we know where Sean Astin came from, so.
Well,
He's
no, we
Pugsley.
don't actually.
He's Pugsley.
But yeah, so then now we have then
the real life Pugsley
announcement. So then, Paul, what are you hoping for season 2 of Wednesday before we move on here?
Well, I don't want to, this. If you haven't seen the first season, obviously there's some spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
The head mistress of the school is gone, who I really liked. The show was well constructed, especially, my rule of make the characters look radically different. And they did a very good job of that. Well, obviously, we're going to have more, it's going to be a mystery show, more problem solving. They might add another faction to the school to have another Gryffindor versus whatever, thing. Yeah, there's lots of possibilities for this. That they're obviously going to expand the relationship between the mother and the daughter. That's one thing that they made up. They did a lot of that. We'll see whether there's more anxiety, but she's going to be in the next year. What's going to be involved in the next year? What kind of contests, what kind of school things are going to be happening? They're probably going to rip off a bit more from Hogwarts, where they really didn't get into school culture much in the first season, but they now have an opportunity to get into the 1,000-year culture and the different activities that the school gets the kids to be involved in. Those are terrific opportunities, and there's going to be murders and death and stuff. And one interesting thing that I'll be interested in seeing whether they continue or not is that she's really a lousy detective.
Yeah.
and she just kept accusing people constantly. Are they going to keep that as a character trait? I thought that was kind of cute.
Do you think they'll bring Angelica Houston in the season 2?
They don't need to.
They need a new headmaster.
Oh, that's interesting. Angelica Houston is headmaster.
How much does she really act anymore? I know she's getting quite up there.
Well, she's
doesn't matter. When you get to a certain age as a woman in Hollywood, they call you. You do it.
Well, I get that, but I'm just saying, is she in? Okay, I didn't even know she. My point was, I wasn't sure she was still actually acting.
No, she's an important character in National Treasure. She's the antagonist. So yeah, I have no idea. I would love it if they got rid of poor Gomez.
No, well,
yeah, they did not nail the male family members of the Addams family aside from Pugsley.
Well, that makes me sad because that was one of the things I was worried most about. Because I'm like, yeah, I get why they picked him because he looks like Gomez from the original comics, but we have most people. Well, not just that. Most people associate Gomez with either John Astin or Raul Julia. Those are kind of the versions that most people.
The problem was that Guzman, number one, had no sex appeal with, what's her name?
That was my fear most of all, is that he doesn't, right?
He doesn't, and also his diction was so bad, I had to turn on subtitles to be able to understand what he was saying.
Yeah,
I felt really badly for him because he looked the part. And if you're going to be doing juxtaposition humor, then her absolutely in love with this ugly little man is great fodder for writing.
Because, really, the only difference between those two in the way they play the character is John is obnoxious and doesn't realize it in a way. He thinks he's charming. Raul is actually charming, right? That's the thing is you think he's weird, but that you could see how he could actually charm people. But
in the comic books, he is charming.
And that's probably why most people gravitate towards the Raul Julia version of the character too.
But to have an ugly little man and this beautiful woman madly in love with each other,
that's kind of the joke. Yeah, I know, and I get that.
And you're not getting that from this.
You don't get that from Raul Julia's version, but what you get from Raul's version is he's a big kid.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I didn't mind Raul.
You still get that from John Astin's version too.
It is, yeah, but it's more of a sadistic kid from John Astin's version.
In that pilot alone, when he's arguing with the truant officer about he doesn't want to have his kids go to school because then he doesn't get to hang out with them. That's funny.
That's true. That's true. They're very similar, but there's just little differences that they have. But No, I'm glad for the fans. Hopefully the second season picks up a little bit better than it ended, it sounds like. I was never too keen on the whole Scooby-Doo aspect of it. Like,
I
It's
think
not very Scooby-Doo.
I think it was the big ending to try to get a second season. I think it's like the desperation, last minute heave into the end zone.
yeah.
That's
We should
what
get to some of these super chats here before we get too long in the tooth.
I'll forgive them if the season 2 is good and doesn't descend into
Madness.
bad.
Miller tend to
That's
descend into
my one
badness.
worry, that they'll give into the pressure. And
Yes.
yeah, that's
Make
my
her
one worry.
bisexual or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't tell them to fuck off.
Dr. Longdongler sent us in a thumbs up. Thank you for that, Dr. Longdongler. If you haven't hit that thumbs up yet, please do. There's over 1,000 of you watching.
Woo!
We have Hillis Mallory here who says, just want to put this out there. As I look at the thumbnail, why is this a story? We all know Ezra acting days are numbered. Flash series or not. Well, it's kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but yeah, like busted, I guess, a little bit, little clickbaity, but I wouldn't say it's the worst clickbait we've ever done.
Yeah,
But I don't think anybody
on-
here on this panel really
it's
believes that
clickbait.
Ezra Miller's coming back. Sorry, you were saying, Paul?
I was just
I'm
going
sorry,
to comment on this channel I saw with this clickbait thumbnail. Ezra wins? Really? Who would do that? That's scraping low. I
Hey,
hope I'm not on that channel.
But we're
Harry-
about to get into that soon here.
Harry Cavill fired.
Harry Cavill fired.
Oh, look, it's the guy who likes to attack dead people. There you go. Nice to see you.
Speaking of trolls. So.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
speaking of trolls. And then we got David Deacon Little here, who's a member now. Thank you so much. Hyperguyver says, so how many children did Ezra promise from his compound to the Warner Brothers execs to keep the role?
Whoa.
I don't know if we want to go there, but
No.
replace Ezra with a man who can run, Tom Cruise. Well, he's busy. He's busy making Mission Impossible movies till he's 80. Then we got Zontar, who says Andretti Global and Cadillac announced joint F1 entry for 2026. American team, American car, American engine, American drivers.
Yep.
USA, USA,
Yeah,
USA.
I look forward to it. There's a few new cars coming in. Porsche might come in, BMW might come in. It's going to be a free-for-all.
Cool. Very cool. I might even check that out myself then.
Well, it needs it. F1 needs that kind of variety.
It certainly does. And stuff like that can actually get some interest going. So, yeah, good luck with that.
Hmm. Are you gonna go? Are you going to F1 in Vegas? Anybody here?
Not
I don't
me.
know. When is it?
It's coming up soon. You can get a suite in Vegas for 5
No,
days
what
for
month?
$5
Is
million
it
bucks.
after April? Because I can't get to the United States till after April.
Yeah, I don't know the exact date. I just thought it was interesting. I'm like, there's a suite in Vegas you can get for 5 days. It's only $5 million.
Oh, I'm in.
yeah,
My YouTube money will pay for that.
Yeah, it includes being chauffeured about in a Rolls Royce. You know,
Do you get to keep the Rolls Royce after?
no.
Then it's not worth it.
No.
Yeah, I was about to say, for that price, I want to get to keep that Rolls Royce.
Keep the car.
But it's like a purely academic exercise anyway, because just like script, I ain't coming to the States anytime soon. Certainly not before April.
Do you know the depreciation of a Rolls Royce? 35%
That I should
the
imagine.
first year, and then 50% the next 2 years.
Huh.
Except for the SUV version, which kind of holds its value.
So I should really be buying a Rolls Royce that's like 4 years old.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm.
Except the problem is the parts
Um,
will kill you. The repairs will kill you.
just like a BMW. Yeah.
Basically.
Oh man, BMW.
That sounds like almost any car now, because like my dad, they had an Equinox and they had a computer problem. He got so pissed off at how much it was going to cost that after he got done fixing it, he took it in and bought a new car. He's so mad. Like he traded it in or whatever.
Yeah, it's not the most reliable car, but the one with the most fixable longevity are Subarus, where it's basically been the same engine for 40 years.
You know, it's ironic you said that because I just heard that last night.
Really?
Yeah.
It's the same brake lines.
Well, what's funny is I used to work
my-
for a company that actually made a couple parts for them, believe it or not.
Who did?
Yeah, I did. We actually made a couple parts for a few foreign car companies. It was weird, like the rocker arms and stuff. It was just yeah. When I was younger, I used to work at a factory.
I remember when Toyota and Nissan engines were like bulletproof and the same, and you like could literally work on them, like the B-22 engine.
Toyota,
yeah, and everybody got away from that, right, to make cars more disposable, and that's a real problem. I mean, we've been fighting that one for a long time. To think about all the hunks of junk that they've been running in Canada since the 40s and 50s, or not Canada, excuse me, Cuba. It's the 40s and 50s, and
I understand why you got confused. Same family line leading.
yeah, it was easy to confuse the two, the kinds of government structure in the two countries. But
fresh snow, I don't think we'll get to this point yet.
Yeah, actually we could probably launch
there's a few of you guys.
The dumbest thing the manufacturers are doing now, and it's because of government regulations, is direct cylinder injection and 0W20 oil. It's the stupidest combination in the world because the gasoline washes the thin oil off the cylinder walls and then causes the rings to burn out. It's like as soon as your car is finished its warranty, then move to 5W30 immediately. Like nobody should be running that stupid 0W20, which marginally increases your gas. Are you
a fan of synthetic oils or no?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that 0W20, which everyone puts in because it increases the range of your car.
Right.
I got to get my oil changed today.
And along with direct injection. It's a terrible combo.
Yeah, I like synthetics. I mean, from the day I buy something till I get rid of it, it's all synthetic.
Valve injection, guys. That's the way to go. Cleans off everything, gets rid of the carbon. Anyway, we've just changed the mandate of this channel, Andre.
Well,
we just got a really cool clip out there.
Before we ever get to Midnight's Edge Drive or whatever it was called, we'll do Midnight's Edge gear porn first with Paul Chato. So
I'm all for it.
We got to
get your son aboard for that since he's like a mechanic. So
he's good.
And then we got Martino Solomoni who says happy January 6th and thanks for the great entertainment. Well, thank you, Martino, for being a supporter of the channel.
That's Swiss,
isn't it?
Yeah, Swiss,
yeah.
Swiss. Yeah. Final Smash is here and he says, Happy New Year all. Well, Happy New Year to you. If you had to guess, who will James Gunn use as a villain for a Superman film? I am not going to really guess any of this because nobody knows nothing but Jim right now. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, no one knows, but let's guess anyway.
Toyman.
Ezra Miller.
Toyman would be very good because it's not galactic terror.
Exactly. And you can have giant old school 1940s style toy robots, walking through the streets of Metropolis that Superman has to fight off.
Yeah.
And also inventive classic retro toys that do things you wouldn't expect that could thwart and circumvent Superman's efforts to help people. It feels like you can have fun with it and still take it seriously within the genre of a Superman story.
Yeah, we don't need another galactic problem.
Yeah.
We don't need another Thanos. I'm so tired of.
Well, I'm not going to speculate on actors, but I agree with the script. It'll either be Brainiac.
Too big.
But I think he's right. That'll be when you save for
you save Brainiac for later.
So I think this would be a combo between Luthor and probably either Toyman or some other street level type, but somebody who can actually give Superman a fight. You know what I mean? Not maybe Metallo.
Yeah, Metallo would be a good one. Parasite.
Parasite. I was just going to say the Parasite.
Powers. Yeah.
Pretty much how the cartoon series went, something along those lines, basically. And honestly, again, we don't know what James Gunn's up to, but he keeps posting a lot of stuff, let's say, from the original Superman film. So I think that's where he's going to draw a lot of inspiration from. I'm not saying he's going to just remake that, but I think that's going to be a big part of the tone. And I think that's why, in my opinion, script's probably right that it'll be a lesser known bad guy, but not like in a huge cosmic level.
If they can reset Lex Luthor, because at some point Lex Luthor does become an ally, a grudging ally of Superman, so it's a nice arc. if you can introduce that Lex Luthor that can change sides depending on the situation.
Well, that's kind of been a dynamic in different versions of the series. Yeah, like I mean, it depends on who's the enemy of my enemy thing with Luthor. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, Luthor was not part of the Snyderverse.
Well, not
Kinda.
the real one.
Yeah,
No,
no,
Jesse
actually, you did
Eisenberg
have
was part
Luthor
of
in
the
the
Snyderverse.
Snyderverse. You had
Yeah,
his
Ezra-
son, not the
yeah.
genuine, but you had like his son was there, played by the guy pretending to be the Joker. I forget his name right now.
Jesse
Batman
Eisenberg, who was just
It was more
Yeah,
like the
right, yeah.
Riddler. He was
Yeah.
more like the Riddler, but yeah. See, he'd make a good Riddler. Jesse Eisenberg would, something like that, but
better Riddler than you made Lex
not
Luthor.
Lex Luthor. I mean, the only reason I didn't totally freak out when they first did that is because they're like, "Oh, it's the son." I was like, "Okay, so there's still room open for an actual Lex Luthor." Gotcha. You know, but they never did anything.
What
with it
if
that
they
was
make
worth a shit.
Lex Luthor patterned after Elon Musk?
Then you
would not put
basically
that
get
past them.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah,
Like,
you get that again. If you made him after Jeff Bezos,
that's a little better, yeah. Because like, what are you gonna do?
Kind of modeled after '80s Lex Luthor. So
Yeah, I was gonna say he did. Yeah, he probably did. No, because what else? What have they not done with Lex so far? He's already been the mad scientist. He's already been the philanthropist or whatever you want to call it.
he's been the corporate. He's been the corporate. The
And the
crony corporate
politician.
head. He's been the politician. He's then been the mad scientist. He's been the fugitive, and then he's been a basically a more selfish version of Bruce Wayne without a secret identity.
Yeah.
And with a mix of Iron Man, which again, that's more of a stunt move that DC has done recently. I like the idea that Lex Luthor will be on whatever side that he can get a positive outcome of. So yeah, he'll help Superman as long as he can benefit from it.
I'm wondering
Exactly.
if Kingpin was a better Lex Luthor than Lex Luthor.
In the Daredevil series, probably. Yeah. I think you're right.
They're very different characters, though,
Yes, but I mean, I understand what Paul's saying.
and that's why I like the way that this Kingpin was more portrayed. Because you're right, in the more classic styles we've seen Kingpin, he is kind of a Lex Luthor ripoff in a way.
He just doesn't invent anything. That's all.
Yeah, he just doesn't invent
uses money
anything.
and mob tactics of manipulation. Where Lex Luthor is supposed to be brilliant in all of his incarnations.
Right.
That's why I like Vincent D'Onofrio's portrayal because he made Kingpin more of an inverted character.
Maybe the best bad guy ever in superhero-dom. I mean,
I don't know about ever, but he did a great job. Yeah,
for television, and that role he crushed. I loved it.
He did, and his downfall was brought on more by his own actions as opposed to anything Daredevil was doing. Yeah.
That arc is always my favorable one. Is like
I will say that's probably one of the best villain arcs. Yeah,
he should have won an Emmy for that role.
The hero delivering the coup de grace makes sense, but the downfalls always should be caused by the villain themselves. I love that. Well, at least that's what I appreciate. But I have a question since we're talking, Lex Luthor. Gene Hackman.
Mm-hmm.
I loved his
greatest criminal mind of our time.
Yeah. I like that kind of take on Lex. I thought that was good. It doesn't sound like you enjoyed it, Script.
What, Gene Hackman's?
Yeah.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed it because he was a genius. The other part too is like his scenes were there to facilitate far more comedy in that movie overall than expected because him and Ned Beatty going back and forth were great. Him and
Miss Tessmacher.
I can't remember the actress's name for the life of me right now who played Mrs. Tessmacher was also quite good.
They were the Three Stooges in a way. He was Mo, and no,
Tessmacher was Larry.
Yeah. Pretty much. I was going to say at some points though, Tessmacher's almost Mo because even though she's not. That's the thing I love about Miss Tessmacher is she's smarter than she ever lets on, and Lex just doesn't notice. It's kind of like just the thing they do, and then his whole thing with Otis is amazing too. Like we've talked at length about how much we love that film. I was just getting clarity because I was like I thought Hackman was genius, but
I mean in a modern villain I think Paul and I agree. I think it's Vincent D'Onofrio. I can't say
D'Onofrio.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah. I think his portrayal of Kingpin was genius. I love it.
It's too bad we'll never see that again.
Well, his portrayal as the bug guy in
Men in Black.
Oh,
Yeah.
Men in
Edgar.
Black.
Yeah.
Oh my
An
God.
Edgar suit.
Sugar.
Sugar.
Yes,
More.
Edgar suit.
He is one of the finest actors working or not working. I hardly see
If
him.
it weren't for his health problems, I think he would have been bigger.
And that's the thing is he because when he first got started, it was in Full Metal Jacket, and didn't he kind of have to take? He did a few roles after that, but then he have to like kind of
player. He was in a couple other,
and then he like was like more of a because didn't something happen like because you mentioned his health? Didn't he have like kind of an issue for a while, and then he came back? I can't remember what it was, but
yeah, I don't remember what his issues were. I do remember there was a health thing, and his television roles were always brilliant. I mean, he could do anything. I don't know.
He played Thor. People forget he played Thor in Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
he's the mechanic.
Yeah.
I truly, like I said, I think that had he not had some stumbles here and there, I think he would have been much, much bigger. And like I said, I mean, it comes through. His acting is top notch.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, he said he went to a pretty dark place to play Gomer Pyle in Full Metal Jacket. So that's the name of the character in the
Wow. Never saw the movie.
Oh,
actually, that's the nickname.
Nickname, yes, I should be clear. That's his nickname again. But no, that's the sad part about that movie. The climax is in the middle of the movie, Paul. That's the sad part. I don't want to give any of it away, but like once his part is kind of out of the equation, the movie goes way downhill from there.
Yeah,
like,
the movie's
two separate movies
at that point.
Yeah, that should have been the climax, is his whole thing. But yeah.
And before we move on from Vincent D'Onofrio, let's not forget him portraying Robert E. Howard in The Whole Wide World, which was freaking amazing.
And he does a totally different performance there. He's one of those guys that just knows how to dig into the role. Exactly. He's a great character actor.
And then the great ones work forever.
Yeah. And never get recognized in the United States because they like the one-note actors. I don't mean to be mean or anything.
Well, you're not wrong.
That's just how the industry kind of works. Yeah, there's probably 100 familiar faces everyone in the chat would recognize, but not know the names to, but have seen them everywhere.
Because I know he'd been working for ever, but like, Vincent D'Onofrio, when he got on Kingpin and everybody was talking about, it's like, I knew, everybody knew he was a great actor for years, guys. You just never paid attention to him, like that's the kind of thing. But Duke Argento is here and he says, I disagree, Paul. 30 Rock is a phenomenal show. Well,
you're wrong. I don't know how else I can put it.
Can I maybe settle this with, it was a semi-decent show at a time when television sucked.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Does that work? Okay.
Yeah,
Then we got Blacklisted and Unemployed Alex Kurtzman here. Says, I think the chaos in DC could be a drama film. Oh yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. Almost as bad as Disney. Like Disney would be better though, because that'd be like some Game of Thrones level shit.
Yeah, they should be shooting this for themselves to get more money.
Yeah. Just make a documentary, release it.
Yep.
Yeah, before someone else does it. Like imagine that. The drama behind the scenes at Disney. An HBO Max exclusive.
I love it.
Yeah.
And of course, let's not forget David Zaslav, the feature film, exclusively on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Hey, one of the things that constantly amazes me, and I'm hoping Gunn can do it, is just how little fun people seem to have or want to have with their little toy blocks in Hollywood. There's just, there's so much people can do if they are less anal retentive about just what these properties mean and how important they're supposed to be and how much money they're supposed to make and everything else. I don't think anyone's having fun there.
But that's because they're all risk averse, right? It's one of the problems with being a big brain, right? Is you think you reason your way out of taking risks, and that's a problem. Hollywood is always at its best when it takes risks. It doesn't do it anymore.
You need people who are capable of it. I'm just finishing off 1980 TV Guide, and Braden Tartikoff is very much in the play in the 1980s. He died at 48, unfortunately.
Wow, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
And he was a genius. I mean, but the thing is, he wasn't afraid to have fun. He didn't let the pressures of Hollywood get to them. I mean, Star Wars, everything is so sacrosanct. I'd hire 5 directors, give them $5 million each, and say, hey, all 5 of you make a new episode 7, and just do it really cheaply. Have fun. Let's see where you go with it. And then pick all sorts of cool directors. I'd go see all 5 of them. I mean, have fun. Like, I don't understand what this whole, we can't, it's retconning and you can't change the the franchise is dead. Hand it over to people who have some fun with it.
You know what? That actually is the potential cure, because since the franchise is dead anyway, then at some point maybe you'll be able to hand it to someone that can have fun with it. And that way, since there are no stakes, since the franchise is dead, maybe they actually can do something so outlandish it would never have been allowed before, and that brings it back to life again.
And people don't understand that there's this notion where the audience might not understand how can I say it? If you showed let's say a $5 million version of a Star Wars movie, but the deal was that all the special effects had to be a single frame, hand-drawn, storyboard-like, as the person looks up to see the starship, it just becomes a storyboard Polish animation thing, which is a term in the industry. And do you think the audience wouldn't accept that if they're seeing a good story and they get the rules of these episodic film, updated, changed, new versions of episode 7? We would, of course, I think the fans would accept it, but the idea that it's got to be perfect and it's got to be, completely rendered out, we've completely lost the fun of filmmaking. It doesn't
the studios have leaned into the dependency of special effects as opposed to realizing, oh man, we can only afford 4 or 5 real good set pieces in the film. We have to make everything else around that so good to earn those set pieces.
Exactly. And make it more talky. Look at Star Trek. The Patty Freeling would be told by NBC that, no, you can't have 3 laser blasts. We can only afford 2. Yeah. And so then they would write around that and often get a phenomenal scene around, like the laser wouldn't work.
Well, and Twilight Zone is a good example of that, right? Like usually it was usually some kind of big reveal at the end where most of the time the big boom come in. Otherwise, it was usually a big lead up to that, right? You're sucked in through the story, through the characters, and then all of a sudden, whatever it was that feels off is revealed at the end. Unless it's a specific episode where somebody has makeup on through the whole episode or something like that. 9 times out of 10 how it worked, or you just get glimpses of like the alien or the gremlin
shadow on the wall.
Yeah, just little things like that. And there's so much you can do with that. And as I've pointed out, Jaws is my go-to example for this, because as I've said before, who knows what had happened to Spielberg had that shark worked. He would have made the greatest B movie of all time, maybe, but not as many people probably would have went and seen it, because it wouldn't have been as, dramatic and enthralling with the characters, because it would have been more about that damn shark. Because from the opening scene, that's what he wanted to show, was the shark coming up underneath the woman, and it was all about built around that shark.
They need to spend less for no other reason than to increase the ingenuity of the movie.
Well, and to quote a very smart man who seemed to have lost it all, basically said, "Special effects are just a tool. Without a story, they're nothing."
It's true. Look, I'm with you,
George
Paul.
Lucas.
Yeah, I'm with you, Paul, as far as that goes. You can certainly write around it. You can certainly, have conversations and things like that. The problem is now we're surrounded by writers that can't produce good dialogue. So the dialogue comes about, about talking about feelings around tables, talking in hallways, or
feelings.
All that stuff that we've been criticizing for a long time. But dialogue's a lost art. Again, go back, and you don't have to like the guy, right? But go back and watch Sorkin's West Wing, and how they have moving, talking, walking conversations, dialogue through hallways, right? And they might just be walking in a circle. You don't know. That set wasn't all that big. And they would just navigate through that and have an entire conversation, and the dialogue was brilliantly written. It wasn't written for, the lowest common denominator, right? It was written.
That comes down to a very old trick. when it comes to dialogue, which is know the difference between a character's dedication and motivation. And I actually say this in my recent pilot review on my Patreon. Dedication for dialogue, dedication is pontification and motivation is conversation. So, because the dedication, you're dedicated to something, you don't care how you get it or how you do it. You're just dedicated to doing it. And if you write with that mentality for your dialogue is going to be exposition and it's not going to be interesting. But if they're motivated and they're trying to convince other parties and other parties are trying to convince them of something else, then you have a conversation. And that's where fun dialogue comes from. And unfortunately, with a couple of the bigger properties here, we're not really seeing dialogue that facilitates character motivation. We're seeing it dialogue that facilitates the plot or the character's dedication to get to the next story beat.
Well,
that can be made to work. And James Cameron is a master at it, where one of the most hoary piece of exposition to advance plot and story is the scene where Kyle and Sarah
are in the car.
In the car. And he is blurting out the entire terrible dialogue, but it's fantastic.
But he's motivated to convince her to save her life.
Correct.
Like that's one of the things in there. If you didn't care about saving her life and they're just in the car driving, you wouldn't come across with that level of emotion or that investment in there. Because that's where his dedication and his motivation are working hand in hand. He is so dedicated to save her life. It's fueling his argument, which is to motivate her, which is to convince her to listen to him because he's the only person that can save her from this machine.
Right.
He doesn't even know
being shot at.
Yeah.
It's a lesson. That one scene is a lesson on how to write difficult exposition, but not make it feel like exposition.
Yeah. Well, that's the real trick, right? Like, if you can make a scene in motion, pushing the story along while also giving the audience information, all these things at once, that's when you have a well-crafted, story that works on screen. Back to the Future does this,
yes,
and some other films do this really, really well.
But that's you can do a lot of that stuff under the specter of urgency because of the circumstances that you're So I think that's a lot. That's a great way to bury some of like what you're trying to do to move the story along is underneath like a real threat to the characters and that are in putting them in
create frenetic energy basically.
Yeah, but that also goes in line to the motivation. If you're creating a situation of urgency, the characters are motivated to respond to that urgency, right? And so that's what you have to remember. So at any point in a scene, you have to ask yourself, what does the character want in this scene? And what they're going to say has to reflect what that want is. Yep. There should be other characters in there that have different approaches to resolution or different wants that conflict with those characters. And that's where you get your drama. That's where you get your fun dialogue. And that's where, as a writer, you get to challenge yourself on creative ways of giving exposition without actually making it instructional or like a lecture.
And this is why Tarantino and Tony Sheridan are such great writers and creators, because they understand this. Look at like those characters. Tarantino's a great example because it sounds like his characters are saying a lot of nonsense, right? It sounds like they're having standard dialogue, but they don't talk like people talk. It is very scripted. It's like a song. It's a dance. And that's why we get into it. And it's very quotable. See, that's why Tarantino knows that. But then in between all those little quotable bits, he's giving you the story. He's giving you the characters. He's giving you the information. He's feeding it to you slowly and surely until you realize, oh shit, it's kind of like when great examples, Karate Kid. The first time the audience saw that before we all knew the twist, you're getting fed these little things and then you realize, oh shit, that's what he's been doing. I mean, sure, some people picked up on that early on, but that reveal is a great moment. And that's another one of those really good examples of where, you can create exposition while also doing everything else all at once. Karate Kid's another great example of like Back to the Future and the other ones we brought up now that know how to use its characters to push the everything forward, have the motivation that script's talking about. And that's what a lot of these, they don't have the elements together. It feels like, and very few shows and movies do nowadays. And it's
because you're not invested in the premise of the movie or show to begin with.
Yeah, there's that too. So yeah, any chance you could get Vince McMahon to join the Warner Brothers Discovery board with a sale rumor? I'd like to make money off my Warner Brothers Discovery stock. Well, I wish I could help you with that, JWT6577. But yeah, no, I don't. Doesn't he have a deal with Universal anyway? I know. I think you're being facetious here, but
oh no, I mean it's funny because he just basically just recooed the company and appointed himself and two others to the board of directors, because there's been speculation that they were going to sell the interest, to some other external company, and he was in trouble about 6 months ago and had to leave the company, so he retired for about 6 months, comes back, basically leads a coup. This is like you could fit this in the plot line for the wrestling itself, like as part of the show, but it's not. It's real life, and he's negotiating new carriage deals because live events are the only thing that sell on linear television. So, I can understand why this is out there. It's kind of amusing. So well done. So, yeah. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but WWE is as an entity is renegotiating their carriage.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Because didn't they have a pretty big deal with Universal last I knew?
They did, yeah. They had a pretty big deal with whoever it was. I mean, like I said,
Universal was who it was, but I think
I don't watch wrestling anymore. I used to, but no.
Neither do I. But
yeah, but it's funny. Vince, like I said, this guy is a real. I don't know if he lives in the land of reality at all. I think he's in a constant state of delusion. But it's amazing, and he's a good businessman.
You think so? I think Steve's right here. I think it's all an act. That shit we see.
But you had like real life issues with the company.
There is some real life issues, but other than that, before that, look at how successful Vince made this thing, right? You can't take that away. So you can't tell me a lot of that isn't an act. If he was really like that, there's no way he would have been able to do this.
Well, you have to remember his dad started the company, right?
He did, but Vince was the guy that made it what it is today. See, that's the thing is, you can't take away from him regardless of how you feel about him. Right. He took wrestling, which was like this regional thing, and he's like, you know what if we put it on television?
Yeah.
And then that was it. Next thing you know, WWF was everywhere. Like toys, lunch boxes, you name it. Hulk Hogan had a fucking cartoon.
Yeah, I like I said, I don't know I don't know what network it was, but yeah, I mean, they've been taking him to task, and you're right. I mean, it came out of, gosh, who was it that was running wrestling back then? TBS? No,
one of those. TNT, I think, had it for a while because they had Sunday Nitro and shit like that. But I think that was WCW.
But I just thought it was fun, and again, it's interesting to watch, and I can understand why people would be like, hey, yeah, let's have Warner Brothers get my.
It would stir things up in the office.
Yeah,
he could definitely do the show. Now we were talking about they should be filming this before in that other super chat. Vince could be the guy to produce this stuff. That's for sure. He'd definitely get all the right camera angles.
Wow.
He'd be like, hey, can you two just fight a little bit? Why don't you slap him?
Well, instead, you just go to the Oscars for that now.
Hey, Mike DeLuca, instead of just firing him, can you throw him out of the building?
Is there a window here? How tall is it?
We'll put some candy glass here. Trust me.
We'll put a pool under you. There'll be a pool. It's all right.
It would make it interesting. Grumpy Old Ninja Kintaro Oe. How do you say that? How do you say that end there?
Oh, USA. Oh, it's Grumpy Old Ninja Kintaro OA.
OA? That's how you say that?
I believe so.
Hola and hail and happy Friday Midnight's Edge in the Morning panel. For Mr. Chato, have you any canoe heads left? I only recently discovered him on previous stream.
There's one.
So go to paulchato.com and send me a note, and we'll start the discussion. $25 plus shipping.
There you go.
There you go. Pick up Mr. Canoehead today. The kids will love it. Warning, paint may be made in China.
Interesting.
Oh, boy.
That gets you out of any legal issues.
It does. Paint may be made in China.
Duke Argento says 30 Rock is the spiritual successor to Canada's STV. Ooh, that's a tall... I don't know. See, here's the thing, and I get where you're coming from, Duke, but I'm curious what Paul and Script would say to this. because like SCTV is basically Canada's Saturday Night Live. 30 Rock is the show about what goes into a show like that, and from what some people have said, it's half bullshit anyway. Well, I mean, I'm sure a lot of the crazy shit is, but I mean,
it's actually not about that at all, because they don't even spend much time actually about the show. It's Tina Fey has a problem.
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin tries to solve it, and Tracy Morgan is just doing something crazy. And then you have Jenna, can't remember her last name, and the weird Paige.
The Page,
doing their own stuff. Like I only watched that for Alec Baldwin because they gave him such brilliant lines throughout the entire.
And this is why I say it. Like at first, it seemed
Tracy
like
Morgan was funny too,
because wasn't the first season a little bit more like, because they did have like I remember the writers' room being a bigger part of the first season, and then they kind of went away, right? Because you had that whole group of writers.
I remember that
they would pop in and out. They were the least important part of the show. It was really all about.
That's where I lost interest. Yeah, when it started becoming more about her dating life crap bullshit, then I didn't.
That was the last season.
Oh Jesus!
She ends up marrying James Marsden. But they had episodes with John Hamm in them that were absolutely brilliant, because John Hamm played a guy who was so gorgeous that the world bent over backwards to make life easy for him. And then when he's found out that was the case, it kind of broke him, and it was kind of funny.
I think I vaguely remember that, but like I watched, I like bopped in and out. I bopped in and out once it kind of just got weird, but yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
SCTV was a sketch show, and 30 Rock is not.
Yeah, that's the big difference.
And SCTV was funny.
Because wasn't that the other gimmick of 30 Rock, is you never actually got to see any of the show itself that they were making?
But they had to do that. They would had to have done it, because then the show that they were preparing would have to be as funny as 30 Rock itself. I mean, this is something Script and I have talked about. It's really hard to do a show within a show and claim that your other show is a big hit, because then you have to prove to
that
the
it's a big
audience.
Wasn't there another show kind of like that in the, I want to say late 70s?
60 on the Sunset Strip.
Okay, thank you.
Gary Shandling's show was the only one.
Gary Shandling was another one, but that's not. I was thinking of the one that Script said. Yeah.
Well, there was the Sorkin show that competed with that.
Yeah, that's Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip,
which was horrible.
Yeah.
Clearly, Sorkin does not know how to write humor, comedy.
Neither does David E. Kelly.
Sure.
Well, I think, and again, he got caught up. He got caught up in trying to do too much of the backside of that. And yes, he's not funny. I mean, there's no comedy in Sorkin's stuff. I think that he should have hired some very qualified comedy writers to try to get the comedic bits to come off. But again, it was basically West Wing in Hollywood. It was all it is. It was
Larry Sanders' show worked because that was a talk show, wasn't it? If I remember right.
Yeah, it was the Johnny Carson show.
Yeah, that was actually
John Favreau and a bunch of like up and coming comic and comedic writers in the late 80s, early 90s that were working on that show constantly.
But the sequences of the show itself were very funny. So it didn't have as high a bar to lift, because it wasn't a sitcom. They weren't trying to recreate that show within a show. But you know, the interviews. I'm trying to remember, who was it that Larry Sanders ended up battling on the show, and they started hating each other.
I'm trying to remember
on camera.
Not Rip Torn, it was the other character.
No. I mean,
it was a guest, because it wasn't Jeffrey Tambor.
No. Yeah, no, I'm trying to think now, because it's been like 10, 12 years.
That was hilarious. It was such a brilliant show.
Because I binged it like a decade ago, and I can't remember.
The Larry Sanders Show is fantastic.
It was. Yeah.
And the other part, doing, like, as Paul and I have chatted before, doing a show within a show, you're essentially creating competition for yourself. Because if your show within a show is better than the show, then people are watching it for you to try and live up to the show within the show. It's better just to give them little snippets of something and let the audience imagination run with it, but then tell them, no, this is really what we're trying to make you laugh at or laugh with and what have you. And yeah, it's a tough thing to do. It's why you don't want to be writing two shows for one show or two movies for one movie.
Martino Solmani says RoboCop 3 was shot in 91 and released in 93. Yep, because they ran out of money. That's why they sold Addams Family.
Wow. They couldn't even afford a custom RoboCop suit to the new actor.
Nope.
who wore the original suit, even though it didn't fit.
Wow.
Yep.
And what's his name didn't come back for 3.
Nope.
Peter
nope,
Weller.
Nope.
Peter Weller didn't come back for 3.
Nope. He said, fuck that noise. Darius Munchausen sends in a Subastica. It is a red box of popcorn. Thank you so much. And then we got Christian Corleo here who says, what other roles do you see Jenna Ortega playing?
Well, she's tiny. She's 5 feet, so that does limit some things for her.
Any Christina?
So she can
Ricci
play
role?
Tom Cruise?
Probably.
She could play gender bent Tom Cruise, yeah. Like
She could play opposite Tom Cruise a lot easier. That's for sure.
That'd be kind of
this is
awkward.
true.
But
Like she would fit very, very well Tom Cruise romantic interest. Even looking at some of the people Scientology
quite
has
the age difference.
hooked him up with before, she'd also make like a good Tom Cruise future wife.
So, well, she might actually qualify because every wife
I'm serious. I'm not joking.
younger than the one prior to it.
Yeah, I'm not
that's the way
joking.
Leonardo works too. He trades them in every few years like a car.
Well, no, he has an age limit, which is that once you pass the age of 25, you're gone. So he's
So,
always with women. No, Tom Cruise is different. He just goes 12 years younger than the previous wife.
I know. I was talking about Leo, though. He trades them in, I said.
But Leo trades him in at 25,
yeah,
which is different. That's your cutoff. Doesn't matter for Tom Cruise. They just have to be 12 years younger than his previous wife.
Right. I'm not arguing that point. I was talking about Leo.
You're trying to compare them, but they're different.
Well, whatever.
Tomato.
Tomato.
Just interject. RoboCop 3 cost $22 million and grossed 47.
Didn't make any money.
In 1991 dollars. No,
that would have made a little bit of money in
a
91.
little bit of money.
Yeah.
Distribution and marketing costs were way cheaper.
Didn't matter. Orion was already dead by then. They were already pretty much bankrupt, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, it was too little, too late.
Correct.
Yeah, basically. That was my point. Was had they hung on to Addams Family, finished it off, and assuming the movie was exact because it was, they were already midst of shooting when they sold the rights to Paramount. Assuming the movie would have been exactly the same, finished off that way, and they had enough budget to advertise it, it could have saved the company.
If.
I know it's a bunch of ifs. Horseradish
That's the thing
power.
with Hollywood, a company that is on the verge of destruction. With that one movie, can actually salvage them. That's happened a bunch of times, but it didn't happen this time.
Yeah, and Horseradish Power says, I'm wondering if Wednesday is going to have the same cultural impact as Buffy. I see parallels and reckon it could be as big for Netflix as Elite.
It could.
As far as like the demographic and that kind of stuff, possibly. But Addams Family's already had a cultural impact way beyond, and I think that's part of the reason Wednesday's popularity is what it is because everybody kind of knows who the character already is and they have an expectation going into it, and a lot of people's expectations were met. Buffy, on the other hand, I don't know. Maybe, I guess. I see them as she already has her own establishment. So, but funnily enough, you mentioned Buffy because I just heard that Sarah Michelle Gellar turned down coming back for a revival of Buffy.
As her mom?
No, it was Buffy again.
Well,
smart move for her to turn that down.
Yeah, I would assume it because I think the whole thing was passing it down to a new generation, and this is where this would have been, I think, the one that what's their faces, all the land haired or the red haired land whales were freaking out about because we were going to have a black Buffy, and we're like, oh yeah, see how it feels, and it really wasn't going to be Buffy, it was just going to be the next generation or whatever is what it was. We all knew that because we did the research before we freaked out on it, but they didn't, and they made asses of themselves, which is hilarious. But yeah.
That's what happens when you assume.
Yep. But no, yeah, could very well. I haven't seen much memeing of Wednesday yet, though. I mean, I know it's popular, but I haven't seen anything come of it that is memeable necessarily.
Well,
yet.
it goes to show that the memeing crowd aren't the ones watching it.
That could very well be.
We have to wait for 3 seasons of Wednesday to be able to judge its cultural impact.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
It's weird though, because now I think it's not uncommon, because Tom talks about it regularly, to look at the things that are trending in the various social media areas to evaluate, whether or not it has any kind of cultural.
Oh, I've seen Wednesday trending quite often. I just haven't seen they haven't had like a memeable moment yet.
Right. But that's it's bigger than that, because like I'll look at stuff and it's one of the reasons why I've always dismissed parrot analytics. You can see whether or not it's like in like the zeitgeist, but to what extent is what you evaluate, and that's what the ratings and things are for. So when you look at this show, I think Wednesday is going to be somewhat significant. The question is, are they going to be able to maintain through season 2 to get to that coveted third season? Because once you get to the third season, you've found.
Oh, I guess it did have a moment.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
Oh, the dance thing. Okay, well, cool.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I said, I mean the trending like elements there. If it's something that trends regular and and the ratings are equal to it, I think that's when you have something that's significant. And we don't have a lot of those anymore. So hopefully the show is that. And to answer the question,
well, this is why, because I don't have TikTok.
Oh, well, good for you. You're not being spied on by the Chinese government all the time.
I don't have TikTok.
Yeah.
Never had TikTok.
The BBC journalists are begging the BBC to stop making them do TikTok stuff because they don't want to be tracked by the Chinese government.
Let's grab a few more of these super chats about Wednesday, and then we'll get into the main topic here. One fan, I almost said only fan. One fan says, my 12-year-old public school infected daughter and I watched Wednesday, and I loved all of it except parts that we both saw were written amateurishly. Well, the fact that she's public school infected and she noticed it too means you must be doing something right, one fan. There you go. So you're penetrating through the propaganda. Because otherwise she would have been arguing with those points and been like, no, Dad, it needs to be that way. Because, like, it's not woke otherwise. And then John Orchard is here and says, monsters were monsters trying to be human. Yes. The Addams Family were humans trying to be monsters. Yes. That's a really good way of putting it. And there you go. And then with that, this gets us into this one here. Ezra Miller kept on board, cats and dogs living together, biblical mayhem, pilgrim media. That gets us into our main topic. Let's do it. What do you kids say?
Sure.
Go for it.
Okay. So this whole Ezra Miller business, how do you want to get into this, Andre? Because this all comes from a Variety report.
By breaking down, where is this from? What is the official narrative here as reported by the trades? Let's begin with that. Then we can see, how do things get into the trades? Because this first came from Variety, I believe, which tells us instantly that the source of the information is someone inside of a studio. Typically, it's not going to be someone low level. It's going to be someone at the producer or executive level, because those are the kinds of people that will leak information to a publication like Variety. Oh, and Deadline Hollywood and The Hollywood Reporter. Same difference, to be honest. And the information here, and this is something that is in the trades, so we know it comes from a studio source, but we don't know who in the studio. That's important. And what they said is basically, in not so many words, that Ezra Miller, he has kind of behaved himself pretty well lately. He's kind of like regretting his earlier things. Maybe they'll put him on an apology tour, and then that could be like a great redemption story. So maybe they'll keep him on as the Flash beyond the next movie. Because remember, what we heard before, so this is a shift in narrative. What we heard before, and this is something we heard very consistently, was that even if the upcoming Flash was released with Ezra Miller in it, and even that wasn't certain, but if that were to happen, he would definitely not be in anything after that, because there was just too much damage. There was no way they could keep him beyond the upcoming movie. But now that appears to be changing a tiny little bit. So yeah, that is the story as pertains to Ezra Miller, and then of course there's much more to dive into here with Black Adam and Dwayne Johnson and Donny Garcia and everything like that. But for the moment, let's stick with Ezra Miller. So that is the official story from there. So, gentlemen, what does this tell you when the Hollywood Reporter puts this here? Who could have done this? Culture. Let's begin with you. Your gut reaction.
Gosh, to what specifically? How or why any of this went down?
Yeah, no. What do you think?
Well, I think we need to be clear first up front, Andre.
What end? Yeah.
I say first, the article is a very long, supposed look inside the inner workings of what's been going on at DC for the last month or so, or actually longer than that, since the release of Black Adam, before the release of Black Adam. So it starts off with the whole controversy between what happened with talking about the going on between Dwayne Johnson and David Zaslav, and how Dwayne was pushing for Henry Cavill to come back, and all that mess. So then it gets into a few other rumors, of course, about Amber and Ezra, and that's where people are picking up on things, and they're basically taking one small quote and turning it into an entire story. And I'm trying to find it here. Here it is. Okay. So as for what else Gunn and Safran have planned for DC's future, it's way at the bottom of the article. It says, sources describe it as a broad but not blanket reset. Now, this is just sources. They don't say what kind of sources or anything. They give you nothing. At this point, nothing is ruled out. Given that Miller has stayed out of trouble since the beginning of his mental health treatment in the summer, some executives are amenable to continuing the actor as world-saving speedster The Flash after the film bows. Okay, now notice it says some executives. That's not all. And not only that, if it would be like important executives, don't you think they would name them, or at least give you a little bit more of an idea of who?
And this is what I mean with like sources. Someone dropped this in there because they wanted the information out there.
Oh, cool. So let's hear what Culture has to say on that.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, no, my only thought would be that again, this is like we have like, information from a source, close to the situation. This is where you kind of have to exercise a heavy skepticism, because as Andre mentioned, this is it put in this publication and many others for a reason. It's written this way very specifically. And the question would be, who are which you've already asked Tom and Andre and everybody else, who are these executives? My thoughts would be, well, it could be anybody. It could be somebody who's actually already been removed from the studio that's still trying to influence this. There could be somebody that is, going to bat for their boy. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, and essentially that's why, that. I mean, I don't know how else to spell it out other than to say that
that's a good way to set up further discussion, and that's kind of like what I wanted here. Script. I know that you have some thoughts on this. What do you think might be going on here?
I think possibly my gut feeling is telling me that at least two executives on The Flash may have commented on to this reporter, and that's where they got that information. The first and most obvious one is Walter Hamada, because he's going to make money off this movie if it makes money. And he's attached to everything that's on the DC slate coming out this year. He's still attached to. Doesn't matter. He's no longer with Warner Brothers. He's still going to make, if the movies make any money, he's going to get to cash his checks on that. The other name on there, a person who got their start being a co-producer for Justice League back in 2017, is a producer named Marianne Jenkins. And she doesn't have much to her slate. She did Justice League. She did a short titled Nurtured. She then did The Witchers, the Robert Zemeckis remake. And then she was the producer of Wonder Woman 1984 and then Zack Snyder's Justice League. So she's very much connected and invested in Ezra Miller, because I'm pretty sure that she's the type of one who, if she goes to bat for Ezra Miller for a continuation of The Flash, because she's also a producer on The Flash, she's expecting to get another job with that. And that's whom I think is be one of the execs. She's very new. She's only been working for about 6.5 years, 7 years. And she's got some prominent position in the production as a co-producer, executive producer for these films. It's likely that she also might be on her way out after The Flash at Warner Brothers. So she's probably planting this in there so that she can attach herself to Ezra Miller and continue to work for the studio. That's my theory. I have no means of backing this up other than the fact that there's a pattern where she was brought in by Zack Snyder and she's worked on the stuff with Zack Snyder, and she made one attempt with Patty Jenkins and then back to the Zack Snyder Justice League. And now she's on The Flash, which again is a cast by Zack Snyder and all those other things. And she's probably also a Snyderverse fan because she helped, facilitate some things of that. And you keep Ezra around, you keep a little hope that the Snyderverse is around.
There's another pattern here too, script. And that is this pattern for the last few months, close to a year now, to keep pushing forward that this movie is not only happening, it's a big deal, it's good. They're working on a sequel already, shit like that. Like, to me, those things are not coming from Zaslav's people. I don't know what you feel about that, but that's the other pattern.
I haven't mentioned anyone that's a Zaslav hire.
Right. No, but I'm just saying, like, as far as, like, there's this constant pattern in the news about The Flash, right? Like, the reason, like, even that there's a sequel going forward already that's being written, and it's like...
But I think Script's right. I mean, it's the remnants of the old regime are trying to fight back and retain their position. And you can plant this stuff in the trades, and I'm sure that, again, Gunn's going to do what he's going to do. And I said in the chat earlier to somebody who was talking about this that I still think it's in, and I hate this because I really think Cavill's the best Superman you could possibly get right now. I think if you're gonna sever it all, get rid of it all, cut it away, start from fresh, and rebuild. Because if you really do, if Gunn really does have an 8 or 10 year plan, start from whole cloth, right? So,
yeah. And I have to say that I agree with this. This is why I always say, whenever you read some kind of like leaked information with this, and this is something that I picked up in finance, like someone says, oh, this is going to go up, this is going to go down, always question, why do they put this out there? It's not from the goodness out of their hearts. In this particular thing, in this particular situation, I think you are all right. I think that the moment that James Gunn came in and we all learned that he's more or less rebooting, and everything that is to come out that was already in the can are creative dead ends. Everyone was like responding with, well, why the hell are we even watching it? There's no point. There are many people who have some pretty heavy financial interests in those movies yet to come, especially The Flash, because that is the biggest of it. Putting something in there is a really, really good way of getting a ton of articles and everything. And indeed, you put that in there, you send like a tip to other friendly online outlets that, hey, do a story on this. You can resource it to the trades. And that way, they may be able to generate some kind of pressure to if not pressure, to really extend things beyond what is planned, but they might be able to drive up the impression that there's an intention for this to move forward, which might give The Flash a few more millions at the box office, which is ultimately going to go straight into the pockets of these with interests here. That, at least, is my reading of the situation. Mr. Chato, you've been quiet listening to all of us. What do you think about this? Could we be on to something, or is James Gunn all in on bringing back Ezra Miller?
So my view always follows the money and the ants that follow the honey into the theaters. I don't really put a lot of stock, and I don't mean to make this an insult per se, on the intelligence of the movie-going audience. Like I always tell people, if I'm the head of if I'm executive in charge of production, I'll go for making money over making something good. Those Jurassic movies with Pratt, for the most part, were beyond dreadful, but made tons of money. I get a raise. I go up the food chain of the studio because I made the money.
Right.
And I prefer that simplistic view because there is some pleasure to have made money for my bosses. So I'm getting the sense that the test screenings are better than anticipated. That's where I'm going with this. And they put it out, they make whatever money they can, and James Gunn gets to continue his plans. That's simplistically is my view.
What do you think? And looking at the money, okay, and looking at the films that have yet to be released. So, with the Flash, Aquaman, and Shazam, is there going to be considerable revenue made from those films? Are they going to be able to at least, turn a profit?
Well, I guess. Go ahead.
Oh, you're asking Paul?
Yeah.
Well, he's asking someone who knows.
Anybody.
Tom.
Yeah.
You know what? It's the crapshoot of is it more beneficial to write a movie off, or is it more beneficial to have it go out and break even? What's the better scenario? I would suggest that there's something to be said for keeping the brand out there, that they're making, that the audience is going, oh, Warner Brothers continues to release and make movies. Oh, look, Disney has completely disappeared off the map. They're not producing anything anymore. They're running away. So there's so many different pieces to this puzzle, including brand management. It's why large companies will produce multi-million-dollar ads on CBS Sunday morning that do not tell anybody what they do for a living, but just make people feel good about the brand. So there's brand management there's involved. There's the risk of the movies themselves. There's the notion that the testing was better than they anticipated, and the vast majority of people out there really don't care about the Ezra story.
Okay, so if we step back and so we have these films coming, The Flash, Aquaman, Shazam, Blue Beetle, right? And of course you have the TV thing, Peacemaker, they mention here. This is all contained within this article, right? How long until James Gunn universe makes it from, concept to screen? We're looking at 3 years.
Oh,
I don't think we're getting anything until 2024 is optimistic. Late 2024 is optimistic.
Yeah, 2024. And then there's the notion of how is he going to do it? Is he going to drip manage it, or is there going to be an initial slate of movies and TV shows that establishes this new James Gunn brand? That I don't have an answer for.
Yeah. I wonder what his strategy would be. I mean, like I said, there's going to be a gap here. So there really is no harm done releasing all of these films and then setting them aside forever.
That's
kind of what I've been saying too. And not only that, there's an incentive for them not to make money. And that's what I was going to say there before too. And that is, there's probably a bunch of back end deals that if it doesn't make money, they ain't got to pay ever. And that's one thing they could save on, because that way they at least don't have to lie when, the lawyers come and ask, where's the money for the Flash?
Well, that's a good point.
That's a big part of it too. And again, people keep saying, well, why don't they just write it off like they did Batgirl? Well, they can't. That's at least the impression that I've been getting. And to me, that tells me that there's back end deals, deals with probably like Doritos, McDonald's, whoever, they made a deal with on that end, that they have to put this thing out in theaters one way or the other. And since there's going to be this is what we're saying. By the time we see the first James Gunn project coming out of the new official DC films, it will have already been 2-3 years past where we're talking right now in this moment. And almost time for them to renew his contract if they're going to.
Right.
So we'll just be getting to see that shit fresh. Like, we are definitely at least 2 to 3 years out, if not more. Like Script has pointed out too.
TV Guides, 1998.
You know what Paul's doing?
Yeah, Paul's editing.
Talking about the TV guide.
Yeah, but
That's all right.
I'm
Let him do it. I want that video. Damn it.
I want that video too. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, so we're 2-3 years down the road from seeing any of these films, right? He lost my interest because he fired. Well, he didn't fire Cavill. He didn't renew his contract as Superman, right? There's not going to be a Cavill Superman thing. He made that very clear.
Well, that's where I've been saying, should we even really blame him for that? That was none of his real doing. He could have kept him on, but I mean,
yeah, I mean, and Cavill obviously moved on from his previous representation because of whatever happened between Danny Garcia, The Rock, and
that's what I'm saying. Like, that to me feels more like the situation.
We just set it aside, and I look at it and I go, okay, so he lost my interest in whatever he's doing in the future, unless he manages to make great films. I'm just not going to get hyped for it. I'm not excited. But at the same time, I'm not going to go see any of these, absent maybe Blue Beetle. I might go see Blue Beetle, but of all these other films, these other 3 films coming out, that's not my jam. And I didn't really appreciate Peacemaker, which is going to bring a lot of hate on me, but I wasn't really a fan of that show. So, I think Blue Beetle is probably the only thing that they'll get my money for, and everything else they're getting $1. So, I mean, I think a lot of Snyder fans aren't going to go just out of principle.
Well,
you got fans that are just generally not into this stuff at all. I mean, none of these point to me the most profitable DC, Snyderverse film.
Technically, Aquaman.
Technically, yes.
Technically, yes. That's
And that tried to distance itself from there because in the Snyderverse, Mira's parents were killed, but in Aquaman, her parents are alive. So,
And basically, so then the answer would probably be Wonder Woman.
probably be after that, yeah, Wonder Woman.
Because that'd be the closest to the actual Snyder verse in quotations.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the most to do with otherwise. So that would be my between those two, yeah. But here's the other thing. Speaking of that individual, here's the other thing I keep reminding people about this whole thing. There is a sect group of people who are actively trying to put a lot of misinformation out there. That's why I've been very quiet and haven't had much to go on, or a lot of what I've been hearing I just don't really believe because of this kind of crap that's going on. And I know from people that I do trust that I've been told that the only people who know anything are James Gunn and maybe Peter Safran and Zaslav at this point.
Andre,
Yeah.
I gotta ask you. So if we see a big floaty puff piece in Vanity Fair ahead of The Flash, will that tell us anything?
That depends on what's in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question, and my question is, why is it of value to these fart-catching media organs to convey this, I don't know, false information, rumor? Like, I don't know what it's
Because they don't like David Zaslav.
No, they don't like him. There's
Okay.
2 sides to it. One is that way they get to keep their relationship with people who they know are in the studio, who can provide them with more news, more headlines, stuff like that in the future. So that's one thing. And the other is they don't know it's fake. They see that, oh yeah, here there's like some corporate uncertainty going on, and who knows how this is going to work out. I mean, look at Bob Chapek. He was removed with pretty short notice. They're not going to decide that, well, we don't believe this. No. They get the scoop from someone, and best of all, it's an anti-Zaslav scoop. It is something that's going to undermine James Gunn and therefore David Zaslav. And the trades are going to be all about that, because the trades, they work for Penske. Penske is in with the Hollywood crowd. Zaslav is not. Zaslav is the closest thing that you can get to an orange man in Hollywood.
I'd say more like a used car salesman.
I don't know that I would do that, because a used car salesman is someone you can kind of ignore. You can't ignore the head of a studio, especially when you have no real power or sway over him.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
talking about culturally in terms of how he, like a bull in a china shop. I mean,
That's how they see him. Yes, they see.
Well,
him
not
as
just that. He has
coming
said
up
things like
China.
Republicans are good for the economy and shit like that. They don't like that kind of mentality.
Right.
They don't like that he's about the bottom line. They don't like that he canceled shit like Batgirl, a movie they knew nothing about until it was fucking dead. Then they gave a shit. That's what I'm saying. Like, this has been an active thing against him from the start. And we got to take every goddamn thing I even have to take everything I'm told with a grain of salt because of this.
Yeah.
Because I can kind of figure where certain areas of where my sources are getting information from. Pretty much I already know one that doesn't know shit otherwise. It's probably because they knew more about the Rock side of things. That's where I was hearing a lot of the Cavill shit.
But if he wins and Warner's wins, then that's bad for the publications.
No, they just move on to the next story.
They just move on to the next thing. But he is their Trump right now, basically.
Nothing. It means nothing to them. I mean, just look at ignore entertainment media. Just look at all of the fake stories that have been going on the last 5 years here that were trumpeted as absolute fact. I mean, you even had Pulitzer Awards given for stories that were 100% bunk. And that have been completely and utterly demolished since. What happened with it? Nothing. So it doesn't matter. It's nothing.
It's not like they don't even do retractions any fucking more, it feels like.
No. I mean, and again, all of these are linked together through Penske Media. So, it's everybody that's going to go.
Yeah.
Everybody that's going to go on the attack is going to write essentially the same story, with the same bullet points. Just, somebody's going to.
These are the same people that went after Chapek.
And we recognize it's the same kind of type of story that's going on right now. It's the same basic thing. This is the same thing all over again.
Yeah. And of course, Gunn,
another bull in the china shop.
And for those who are accusing me of sticking up for Gunn, here's a point where I'm going to bring up where something he's being dumb about. Either keep your mouth shut, or quit going out and giving these these political answers to everything.
And especially in social media, and
exactly,
like Twitter, where you're limited in characters, so it's like vague.
Well, this is what I'm talking about, right? Like, first of all, you're full of shit. You don't know what's out there about Ezra Miller. But then the rest of it is our slate to 8 to 10 years, but we'll only be announcing some of that this month. That's his way of saying nobody knows shit but me.
Right.
So any of this shit you're hearing, and that's the thing he's been doing. Otherwise, he's been going, out there and saying, no, that's not true. Or this is what I don't know where you're getting that from, and stuff like that. He's giving, what did you described it better than me, Andre, the one day.
Remind me what I said that
basically
day.
Like he's being a politician, but I can't remember how you
Oh, right. Yes, thank you. Well, basically, most politicians would be envious of the kind of answers that he do, and he doesn't come up with it on the fly. Like, he sits down and he thinks these answers out, because he answers in a way that is non-falsifiable and that doesn't prove anything anyway in any form, because it can be interpreted in so many different ways.
Yeah.
He does that very deliberately. So it goes beyond a non-answer. It's an omni-answer and a non-answer at the same time. And there's nothing that you learn nothing from it. All that you're left with is that you are left to speculate, talk about it in live streams, in videos, in articles, which is exactly what they want. They want to get fans talking, and with these answers, he achieves just that. And we can talk all we want, and no one is going to get any closer to the answer, because the answer is not to be found in the given the phrasings that he uses. The only thing we get out of it is discussion, interest, and raising the profile of his DC. So very, very clever tactic. Most politicians couldn't do better.
Right. And it creates a lot of conversation, honestly. I mean, again, with that simple response there, I don't know what's out there about Ezra. That's incredibly vague. He might be aware of some of the difficulties he's had criminally, or some of the charges that have been levied against him, alleged behaviors that he's done. He might be aware of that, but he's like, I don't know what it could also be taken as, I don't know what there's out there about Ezra in the trades, or on the rumors, or
again, it's another non-false viable statement, because he's like, oh yeah, I didn't read that one article, so I'm not fully informed.
Yeah.
See, that way he can know everything there is to know and still not lie.
More
he has no clue.
More importantly,
valid interpretations.
More importantly, why isn't he responding to the pregnant Joker?
Yeah, that's a bigger thing. That's what he should be asked.
He can't. He hasn't actually criticized any past or current DC writer at all. Oh, he plays the politics. I love them all. I love their work, and he's going to remain that way until he finds himself in a very suitable point of power where if he wanted to levy criticism, he would, but I don't think he's going to ever.
Well, he's only threw criticism at one set group, and I disagree. I thought this was the dumbest movie ever did. I was like, he shouldn't have done it at all, because everybody's going to take it in a certain way, and the group you're saying it to, they already know what they're doing, and they're not going to fucking care. You're egging them on now.
Yeah.
They do care. I shouldn't say it that way, but you know what I mean. Like, they're it's just fuel for their fire, basically.
Yeah.
Well, the people that he wasn't even referring to in that tweet took it that it was them, which means
exactly.
That's the thing. Like, if you read that tweet and thought he was talking about you, that says more about you than him.
Well, I don't know about that part,
because
but I'm just
you
saying,
don't think you did that, you would just look at and be like, oh yeah, I'm sure he's not talking about me. I'm gonna move on.
Well, until he's in a significant position of power, a la Kevin Feige, right, for the run that he had temporarily, there's no advantage in stirring up drama. It's the same thing we talk about all the time. Where's the advantage in stirring up drama in any of this with anybody else at this point in time? It's easier just to say, hey, they had a great take on this, we're going to go a different direction, and you just made a political answer. We've been accepting political answers in a lot of spheres for a very long period of time.
Well, normally I'm somebody who does lie in the camp like Script does of, depending on how you pull away from certain things like that, it says more about you. But in this instance, there's so much misinformation and so much out there that some people don't understand, that I would be willing to give people a pass on this one because of the Henry Cavill thing, the Wonder Woman mess that's going on right now, the ambiguity on everything. Like, that is something that they should not be doing. I think he was smarter when he was going out there and swatting things down a little bit and just saying, nobody knows shit but me, basically, in so many words. Like, that was the smarter play on this. Otherwise, like I said, shut the fuck up until you announce something, because at this point you're just pissing people off more than you're doing anything.
I haven't been getting that vibe from him.
Yeah, I feel, and again, I mean, a lot of it comes down to him just being a political animal, more so than like James Mangold, who obviously, wears his feelings and everything else, thoughts on his
that
sleeve.
would be worse if he did that.
Yeah.
That would be worse.
Well, the Mangold thing is a little bit different. Is we have people are pissing already on a personal project, that you're going to react to things way, way more differently if someone is attacking your baby.
Well, still, he has to see that what he's doing is a really bad look.
Yes,
no matter how
absolutely.
It may be.
Yes, he's not handling it well at all.
Yeah.
But that being said, I'm just saying context-wise, it's different.
Yeah. And the risk for James Gunn is that he only needs to step out the line once.
Right.
And he's never going to live it down. Because that is the issue with being on Twitter and stuff like that. Like, I agree with Tom that he may have said more than he maybe should have, but he's been able to keep the right balance where he hasn't said too much yet. But yet being the operating word, it only takes once. Only takes one screw up.
That's what happened. Required. I mean, it wasn't astronomical, but it was enough to me to prove you're right. Sorry, Culture, go ahead.
No, I'm just, the only thing I want to add is, look, we've learned a lesson, and this is something that I think will haunt Kevin Smith for the rest of his days, is when he came out and, lied about motive, right? And everything, and threw shade at, somebody who had it cold. right? You know, somebody in our sphere. And now everybody they won't ever take him for his word again. And it's very dangerous to jump out there like Mangold did, you know, is like to come out and just say this was never considered what happens if a script leaks? Like, you know, what happens if somebody gets their hands on some scenes that were shot, you know, and all
can happen.
Yeah. If that happens, which it can, as you suggested, he's screwed. And his credibility, and again, a lot of people will argue with me, you know, none of these people have credibility, and while that may be true, you know, there is weight there with the fans. People will react negatively to anything that you do in the future, just because now we're in a world where being lied to seems like you're constantly being lied to in various different areas of your life.
Well, we're gun shy at this point, right? Like we've been shot at so many times.
Yeah. And you're destroying your marketability. You're destroying a whole lot of other stuff. There's no advantage, you know, in this. There's almost no advantage for James Gunn or anybody else that's involved in any of this stuff to be on social media while they have active stuff happening.
Well, that's a good point.
Well, and that's just what I was going at too, is like, even if it's not a shot, even if it's a loud noise and we take it the wrong way, and the Kevin Smith thing is a great example, because, you know, I went and dug for that fucking clip because I knew it. I'm like, that motherfucker's not a Motu fan. J.J. Abrams, another example. Motherfucker conned us with Khan. Although we all saw through the con. But, like, we're used to being lied to and all this kind of shit. But at this point, like, I just know what I've been told before, and everything went silent. When James Gunn got involved, everything changed. Right. And that's all I know. And that's basically the image we're getting. And until we hear what he's going to say, which is going to be within the next couple of weeks here, because as I think we talked about this last night, Culture, the quarterly meetings coming up here in the beginning of February.
Yeah.
And as we said before, Zaslav's going to want some things he's going to want to talk about that goes right in line with Gunn saying he's going to give you an idea of what the first 3 years are going to look like. But it's going to be almost 3 years before we see that first 3 years.
Well, you've just given me an idea. I'm going to tweet that James Gunn and Warner's have officially optioned Mr. Canoehead, and I'm going to wait for him to say it's a lie.
Please do. You make sure you tag him.
The funny thing is that actually might become a self-fulfilling prophecy, because
you be careful, but
it's a character I can see James Gunn having a lot of fun with.
He would, yeah. Watch, he even actually has heard of it before. You be careful.
Yeah, careful what you wish for, Paul.
It may be good though, so I'm egging you on.
Do it. I'd like to see Mr. Canoehead, or you as Mr. Canoehead, make an appearance.
He could have fit right in with the specials.
Superman.
If you guys have seen the specials, which is an earlier James Gunn film, Mr. Canoehead would have fit right in.
Exactly.
I don't want to piss off James Gunn unnecessarily.
I feel like all of a sudden I'm seeing a new Suicide Squad film featuring Mr. Canoehead.
I think it's a good idea. And they kill him off first.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But gets killed by fire. That's the irony.
What would be?
Or there you go.
Well, I think the irony would be if he drowned, right?
Well, that's true. That would be irony. You're right. Coincidence would be fire. Yes, correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then Waltman says he nominates Chato as Emmy speaker. Well, there you go. So you're the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
I accept this honor, and accept all these ne'er-do-wells who were against my initial, my initial nominee.
Mm.
We need to get Lauren Boebert onto the Midnight's Edge.
There you go. And somebody resurrect David O. Selznick while you're at it.
Wow.
And then Lost for Words has been a member for 12 months. The happy anniversary at the Midnighter level. EVA Unit 4A says, despite Top Gun Maverick, Paramount stock was still downgraded to underweight. Will CBS be the first to fall, or is it Star Trek dog going to keep dragged a bit more? Go woke, go broke, Midnight's Edge. Well, we're seeing a bit of change in the wind at Star Trek, so we'll have to see how that goes.
They finished off season 5 of Discovery, and they're already talking about 6. I don't know where how are they making money off of Discovery.
Season 6 would surprise me, because they filmed season 4 and 5 back to back.
That's what
Yep.
this deal with Kurtzman was a couple of years back. That's what he got money for, was this. Like when we said, oh, he's getting this X amount of money, that's part of it's probably his production budget too.
Jeez.
But with Picard, you know, I was hearing things way before Robert Meyer Burnett started his adventure with Metalis. That's his name, right? Tony
Telly Metalis.
Telly Metalis, yeah. And at that point, I was already hearing that there was like some shifting and going around there, and you know, the story I'd heard before that Kurtzman had kind of been more on the outside of this thing now, especially when it came to Picard and a few other things and Strange New Worlds and things of that sort. So again, it's not fixed, it's not perfect, but it tells me they're trying to move away from shit like that, and they're telling, you know, people to do just like whatever it is the fans want, do that. Like that's what it sounds like. So that's a step in the right direction. It's not fixed, but it's a step in the right direction. What do you guys think?
I look forward to seeing Picard season 3, and it better undo season 1 and season 2. By that I mean it's not enough to just go forward and do it right going forward, because Picard is still an android. Picard is dead.
Yeah.
It's a replica you're following of him right now. So you need to have Q snap his fingers or something like that and undo season 1, season 2, new timeline or something like that. And then we start over with a brand new Picard adventure featuring the actual Picard and not his robot golem.
Well, Q died last season,
Or
so I don't
Gola,
think that's gonna
rather.
happen.
Well, I didn't
Spoilers.
see it. I don't know.
Neither did I.
And all the more reason for
Not that I
Q
care,
to
I'm just
snap
kidding.
all that out of existence.
Yeah,
Another
right.
Q then.
Oh, you could bring back the other Q from the TNG, the blonde-haired one.
Exactly. See, that's what I mean. Bring back her and have to snap her
Well, it's a
everything
guy.
out of existence. Then we can talk. But unless that happens, I frankly don't care how good it is. It'll be too little, too late. The only way to fix this is that you have to, on screen, destroy and undo what was already done. And that's the only way forward. There's no way forward from, okay, so we have Robot Picard, let's not talk about
I'm
it. No,
convinced he's
not good enough.
Doomcock. He is Doomcock. It is Andre and Doomcock are the same person.
Here's the difference.
I've heard
Doomcock-
the same fucking rant 12 times now.
Okay, but Doomcock says he's not supporting it no matter what. I'll say I'll support it. If they actively undo what has been done, then I'll support it.
And I don't think they do.
But I want that active undoing. And if
There's
there's
nothing stopping them
undoing,
from
it doesn't
putting
matter.
the Picard into a younger android body. It could be a completely different actor doing Picard.
Yeah, that was
Well-
so stupid, because that's what they like. For instance, if that was me, if I had woken up and someone had copied my memories, then but given me like an old frail body that might go dead from a blood clot or something like that any moment, I'd be like, why the
great!
hell didn't you
You've given me
resurrect
back
me
my
like
enlarged
fine if I was doing
prostate.
it?
Thank you. Like, oh great! Like, can't you know, like I still
Well, the
can't
ending-
pee consistently. Can't you put me into an android body that can pee consistently?
Exactly.
Well, at the end of that whole thing, when we heard those leaks, I believe them now. After seeing how that show ended, it totally, because we know it was reshot. We had proof of that. And the initial idea was the Golem body was ended up supposed to be for Data, and Picard was supposed to die. Remember, guys, that was the whole thing, and they were going to change the focus of the show. And like, I don't remember if they were going to have Picard put in a body too or whatever. But then it all changed at the last goddamned minute.
And for the absolute worse.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why it's so fucking convoluted, is because it was originally supposed to be the Chato. If you remember the chick that said to Picard, sheer fucking hubris, she was the one who was supposed to come save the day, not Riker. At the end there, so he reshot all her shit. They changed everything at the very last minute at the end. And I think it's because everything got leaked out is why, to be honest with you. But
that's no reason to make it worse. But Mr. Chato has to be leaving us. So
Yeah.
before he has to go, let's go through some of his super chats.
yes, do we have
Many for
specific
culture in the
ones
process
here?
too.
Let's see. Okay, let's see.
While
here.
we're looking,
Well, this was
Chato,
while
have you
there
seen
was-
any cool trailers as of late?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, we didn't get a chance to talk about that, did we?
Yeah. Oh no.
Well, we can talk about that the vampire trailer.
Yeah, Renfield.
Renfield. Who's the actor who's playing Renfield?
Nicholas Hoult.
Where did I see him before?
X-Men Days of Future. X-Men First Class,
yes.
Days of Future Past,
and also Mad Max Fury Road. And you know Jennifer Lawrence, she was the first woman to ever leak like nudes and sex tapes and stuff like that. She made them for him.
I was disappointed that Aquafina was in the trailer, but we'll deal with that.
You know what's funny about that, Paul, is that I didn't even realize it was her at first. Because she wasn't with Black Scent.
But what a great premise. The Nicolas Cage is just in the background. You know what? It's a Universal picture, vampire property, and the trailer is perfect.
I think he's going to be more in the film than the trailer, but I think the trailer was just saving him for that reveal.
It's the perfect monster Universal trailer, a modern one. I really enjoyed the trailer.
It reminded me of Victor Frankenstein in that movie was called Victor Frankenstein, but it might as well been called Igor, because it was following Daniel Radcliffe's Igor first and foremost. It was a retelling of the Frankenstein story through the eyes of Igor. And this here is more honest in that it's called Renfield, but you kind of like have the same thing, because it's contemporary, but it does seem like there's going to be a retelling of the Dracula legend from the eyes of Renfield.
That's just great.
Well, there's actually, I don't know if I'd go to that extent, because they already did an Igor movie with our best friend John Cusack. Don't forget that animated film. But what took me by surprise, and it at first took me kind of off guard, but then I kind of dug it, was this whole idea of him being like a superhero. Like that, I don't remember factoring in the original description for this.
Well, he's according to the trailer, he can derive power from eating something that his boss
small things, small lives like spiders,
and the idea that it gives him temporary powers to be able to execute the plan, which is to bring bodies to his boss, actually is a really cool idea.
Well, that's what I mean. It worked. Like at first it took me off guard. I'm like, oh, okay, I see where they're like, I mean, I knew it was going to be like a satire, like a dark comedy, but I didn't know that element was going to be part of it. And at first I was like, oh no. But then when you got to the end of it and she's like, did I just see you chop a dude's arms off with a fucking plate and stuff like that or whatever? It's like,
well, it's the technique I use.
Yeah. So it worked. And I'm like really looking forward to this, but Andre, I was really curious about your take on it, but I don't know how much longer you have, Paul, before we can jump away.
We can finish this topic and then I leave.
Okay, because you got like one or two couple super chats here before you go. But Andre, I know you've been looking forward to this quite a bit.
I have ever since I did not know that it was going to be contemporary. All I saw was Nicolas Cage Dracula, and that was me sold. Now I have to admit, I still want to see like a proper Dracula adaptation with Nicolas Cage dressed not as whatever the hell we're seeing on screen right here, but as a serious Dracula. That means with mustache. And the only one who has ever had that look and gotten it down right is Christopher Lee. Not in any of the Hammer Dracula movies, but in Jess Franco's Dracula from 1970, which actually had Klaus Kinski as Renfield. So that was pretty awesome. But there, he had the absolute look of Dracula. I just wish that this would have done that. But hey, we're going complete Nicolas Cage with this. And since we're going completely Nicolas Cage, I'm all for it. I can't wait for it. What I do enjoy is that they have, since this is Universal, they've taken like the same font that they used in the Dracula poster from the 1930s. They're using that here, so that's pretty awesome. And yeah, I can't wait for this. So this is a movie that, when is this being released? Because this is right now top of my anticipated
February
list.
or March. I can't remember which now.
I can't wait for it. It better be soon. Can't wait for it. And better come to Norway pretty quickly as well. That's always a risk.
Yeah, this looks like fun.
This looks very fun.
April 14th here. Yeah, I like the one part where he's like, I want pure blood. Bring me the nuns or a busload of cheerleaders.
Oh yeah, that has several meanings today, but
Yeah, culture, you were saying?
I'm stoked for this film, but that's just me. I can't wait to see it. I like the humor in it. And again, I think that if Awkwafina is going to leave the black scent at the door, I think that's only going to help. And I'll actually get to see if she's actually capable of acting, because everything I've seen her in to date indicates that's a no. So, and that would include
Awkwafina. She does her stand-up act.
Well, maybe not in this. Maybe not in this.
Maybe.
Yeah, because I didn't recognize her at first. It took Bobby last night to go, is that Awkwafina? I'm like, holy shit, I think it is.
Well, the line delivery about removing, or dismembering the person with the
plate. Yeah.
Plate. Yeah, that was brilliant.
There's one kind of joke in it that I don't know if it's intentional, but he's not Count Dracula in the movie. He's Conde Dracula.
Comte. That's the French title.
Oh, okay.
I didn't catch that actually.
Yeah. I thought in this trailer they called him Conde, like the magazine.
Oh, okay. Could it be that they said Comte as in the French, or
Conde, Conde was what I thought I heard. That. Conde Dracula.
Okay.
Okay.
That or was just Nicholas's accent, maybe.
I was about to say, what did you think about, as like a descendant of Dracula yourself, what do you feel about his pronunciation of the name Dracula when he went into
Dracula?
Dropped all pretense, like, I am Dracula. Like,
first of all, I was very offended that they did not get a real Transylvanian to play Dracula. I think in this day and age that we should be casting people, not just white people, to play Dracula. I think North Americans, I find it very insulting.
Yes, listen to them, the ring of the woke.
But no, he's. I will have to go through the trailer one more time to hear whether he's that he is doing Dracula correctly. Because if you're going to do it, you have to emphasize the first syllable of every word.
Okay. Script, if you're ever writing an animated Dracula project, you need Mr. Chato to do the voice.
Yeah.
I could probably do something for that could work for this.
I could do that. Shit.
Not a problem. It is so happy to be a part of this entire solution.
You just got to say, let's shoot this fucker.
Let's shoot this.
No. You got to watch Ed Wood. Have you ever seen Ed Wood?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Let's shoot this fucker.
But that was Bela Lugosi, right? That was
yeah. Him playing Bela Lugosi. Yeah.
Who was Hungarian?
It's fucking cold, Ed.
I love that.
We're about to lose a couple of panels.
Yes, we are.
We have to move
so
on.
let's get into the super chats here. We got real quick. We got one for Culture Casino here. Let's do that first. Liam John Smith says, Culture Casino, did you see Razer's new laptops?
No, but now I've got something to do. Thank you, Liam. I will go and look at them.
There you go. You gave him something to do this afternoon, I guess.
Thank you for that. I'm writing it down.
And Mr. Tickle Trunk says, Paul Chato, we need new Babylon 5, cheap and good.
Oh yeah. I'm down for that.
Yeah. And then Hillis Mallory's all for Midnight's Edge Car Talk, new stream show. Well, we gotta have Paul and his And then STR Red Wolf says, driving near Midnight's Edge stream. There you go.
We got a couple of good name suggestions in there as well. And then while you're still here, we also have someone addressing everyone. Tom, here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, he's got thunder in his heart. He's Rod Thunderheart. He says, hail, Andre, Tom, Culture, Script, and Paul. I still can't believe Disney is throwing around D+ subs. How much longer can they continue to bleed red ink? Culture, that's more your...
They've been swimming in it. I imagine, they're bleeding from a lot of different locations right now. I can now see why they want to part with ABC after the video that I dropped today. Linear television is about to go in accelerated decline. And they are not going to be able to negotiate higher carriage deals for their channels and stuff. So I like the regular linear stuff. So I think that they recognize that streaming is like one of their only avenues for future profitability. But doing what they're doing with the deep discounts on the service, maybe just don't make the service overall as expensive as it is. Probably would have been a better strategy. And I feel like there's a lot of room for them to have gains when it comes to their finances, but they can't do it on the backs of the theme parks anymore because there's too much pushback there. To answer the question simply, I don't think much longer. We're going to find out exactly how much blood's been flowing in February. So I'm looking forward to that quarterly call. Or excuse me, stockholders meeting. I think that's yeah.
Is that what's coming up?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Well, Culture, we're glad to have you here. Check out Culture Casino's channel. You got anything coming up real quick you want to plug on your way out the door?
As soon as you guys are done, you can roll the audience to the Friday pre-flight.
That's right. It's Friday.
Yeah, I'll be there for about an hour and no more than 90 minutes because obviously that creeps into other shows that lead us into a wonderful weekend, and I'm stoked for that. And then of course Sunday night, late night culture. That's one way I like to start the week with everybody, and that show's been growing too. Several hundred people on every night, so it's a good time. Cool. Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Well, and also, Paul, what do you got coming up before you head out the door?
Well, I'm. You accidentally heard me just transferring files. I wasn't editing. I'm not that rude. I am totally.
You get a pass to edit any of the TV guide shows while you're on here.
This is coming up. Hopefully today, 1980.
Yes,
featuring Magnum PI.
Yay!
But just getting back to what Culture was saying. I've been watching the sitcoms now that I got my OTA all working, and and Abbott Elementary is okay, and then Home Economics is really very difficult to watch. They've got their own billionaire that's in the house, living there for reasons that I don't understand yet, and none of it's funny. And I'm just wondering whether grazing YouTube has become the new sitcom, where sitcom became, was your half hour of fun on the networks. It was a little bite-sized bit of happiness, and I don't see a lot of happiness in sitcoms. I wonder if sitcom as a medium is going the way of vaudeville.
Sadly, I think you might be right.
What was the fellow's name that gave us 2.5 Men and
Chuck Lorre?
Yeah, I think something happened in his life that made him a very sad person.
His new stuff is really sad.
Yeah.
He's got so much money, he can't actually get any honesty in the world.
Maybe that's what it is. But anyway, thanks for having me, everybody. I really appreciate it, Paul. Everybody, great to see you.
Good show this morning.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye.
Take care.
Have a good weekend, guys. We'll see you.
That's it for me. And
all right.
We'll talk about the end of sitcoms, which really makes me. I have to think about this some more because that would be a tough topic for me to cover.
The funeral sitcoms in memoriam, a funeral of
I don't
comedy. Yeah.
Script. I mean, I don't. I mean, I think those were the anchors of the networks back in the day. They made tons of money off of sitcoms, especially in reruns. And that could be the thing that kills standard networks.
Yeah, a lot of them become the one camera like office type things. What few of them are left.
But even then, they're not funny anymore.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, that's a great.
If I may, some words of possible solace. I also agree with you in that sitcoms had their time, and that was the day of network TV. But that day is over, and so is network TV. They just don't know it yet. But instead, that comedy, it's not gone. It has just evolved. It has now found a different form. It has found a different audience. That audience is right here now on YouTube. And they are now finding the new venue for it, which is videos such as yours. So you are still keeping the spirit of sitcoms alive. How about that?
I like that.
Absolutely.
I'll
That
take
is the
that.
way to look at it. That you
Yes,
are just you're just carrying it on to a new generation in a new venue. Like what you're doing right now, like you've always been ahead of the curve. You've always done like really cool stuff before they became cool things. And that's what you're doing right now. Just building on the legacy of what you've already done, giving it to a new generation.
Well, thank you. I'd like to think that I'm trying to continue the laughs on YouTube here and you know make people, you know, not too angry.
And you are succeeding. So like that way you can go into the weekend on a high note instead
Yep.
of mourning the death of sitcoms. See, things are moving on. Things are
There,
changing.
you're right.
It's the evolution, and you're part of it.
And then I'm going to change my channel name to I Am Sitcom.
Well,
You're all the sitcoms. Yeah.
I am.
think
That's
You're
it.
wrong.
I think the funeral is a good idea.
Yeah. Yes.
I think more of a wake in the Irish tradition,
I like
where
that.
you
There you
get
go. I would
drunk and you
love to
celebrate,
participate.
and you celebrate what has been and what is yet to come.
I
That-
might even rarely get drunk for something like that.
That being said, I think it still has to do with the premise. She-Hulk, if it had followed proper sitcom beats, had everything needed to be an extremely cool and funny show.
That's what I said last night too. I said those exact words basically. I said that you had all the building blocks of a great sitcom, and it's like you worked against yourself the whole way.
And it's so hip. If you read one of the original sitcom episodes where they take on Peter Parker and they decide that let's get Peter Parker to sue J. Jonah Jameson and for defamation, and it works so well that actually Peter Parker backs off and says, no, don't do it, because crushing J. Jonah Jameson actually has a bad effect on what he's doing with Spider-Man. It's like it's really, really clever bit of sitcom writing in the milieu that, well, I mean, if you're into comics, it was super clever. And I don't see why that can't continue. So there is life in comedy. I think it just needs to morph into something else.
But
You just
he
need to
changes his
renaissance
mind, but
it.
there's a loophole. They call Spider-Man to the stand and he doesn't show up.
Was that it?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm making it up. I don't know.
I'm trying to remember. It was a very good
I'm an
episode.
idea guy. That's what I am. All right.
Okay. We'll see you, everyone. Thank you for having me. As
Take care,
always.
Paul. Have a great
Talk to you
weekend.
later. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
All right. Let's get back into some of these super chats here while we're at it. Ryan Bannon says, I'm sure you all saw Batgirl footage. How much do you want to pay to see that movie now? Oh, that would be the most glorious nightmare we ever saw. Did you see her trying to run?
I honestly, I have not seen the footage. I have the same interest in seeing that as I have in seeing the movie, which is none. And I wasn't going to pay to see that under any circumstance. And I'm glad it never happened. And that's even without seeing it.
There you go. And then, yeah, I thought it pretty funny. Joe Pat 87 says Netflix is in fact 2 videos announced that Wednesday is renewed. This includes one about the whole original lineup. Well, they're very proud of it. It's getting a lot of views. It's probably bringing in a lot of new subscribers, because that's what's more important to them about these shows, is that it brings in new eyeballs, not the ones that are already there.
Exactly. If it brings in new eyeballs, and they're going to celebrate that, and they're going to make sure those new subscribers stays by doing stuff like that.
Yep, and that's why after 2-3 seasons, they don't give a shit anymore. Horseradish Power says DC is the Tower of Babylon in Hollywood. Yeah,
Tower of Babel,
kinda.
not Babylon. Different.
Did I say Babylon? I'm sorry. Yeah, we were
Babel
talking about
is
that
where
Babylon
everyone
movie. I
can't
know what it is.
communicate.
Yeah, I know what he meant here. I was just saying Babylon because that stupid movie that's out right now. Yeah, you're not wrong, because this is something I've said in the past too about how disconnected everything is. Go back and hear my story about how it took forever for Batman the Animated Series to finally get remastered and put on Blu-ray over stupidity. And when it finally did, it was like, oh, well, maybe people are into this shit. It's like, you think? Probably one of the most in-demand animated shows of all time, I'd imagine.
I should say so, yeah.
I can't think of another one that would be more in demand.
No, like I would like to say He-Man, but I know that's not
I know.
true.
No, not now. Not after that. That's the thing. That was like the new standard after that. Like,
Yeah,
and
it
it's still
was.
the gold standard now. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, you're not wrong there, Horseradish. I agree with you. David Deacon Little is here and says, did everyone forget the movie called The Cell? No, I know what you're talking about. The Vincent, also with Vincent, yep. What about Kevin Spacey's version of Lex Luthor? Cheers, guys. Happy New Year's to you all. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I thought he did all right.
It was a little underwhelming, unfortunately, because you felt like there was more there that was left on the cutting room floor.
Which I believe there was, actually.
Well, I mean, Robert Meyer Burnett has said there's like another 30 minutes to that movie.
Yeah, at
somewhere.
least. I'm sure there's more than that.
I'm sure. Don't doubt that for a second.
But yeah, no, I thought he did all right. I think, at least in the film, up until the third act of the film, I didn't hate the movie. Sure, there's bits of it that
there's
dragging.
Bits of it, but it was it was quite engaging still. That plane rescue was great.
Yeah, all that shit's brilliant. It's just when he's acting creepy, and then the ending is kind of anticlimactic. That's the other problem.
Yeah,
so he punches a lot of earth.
No, he just throws a rock in space.
Well, you know what I mean. Yeah, it's just like he doesn't really do much. It just kind of happens. It's
those
weird
choices
concept.
And the very effeminate version of this costume did not help.
Yeah, they should have come up with a better plan for Lex. I think that would have helped. This whole building a landmass out of with the original crystal kind of idea thing was kind of anyway. Master Clockwork says Ezra Miller's Flash needs a Viking funeral. Yeah, quick, someone get Ryan Johnson. That's the other thing. I mean, at this point, they were going to recast him before this, and then it went quiet on that, and I wondered why. Well, now we know why. Because they ain't going to fucking bother. What's the point of spending more money after good?
Yeah, or throwing more good money after bad.
Well, that's what I meant, yes. Yeah. Sorry. Because at this point, it's just basically burning money. Because from what we know, the budget's somewhere in the $250 to $350 million range because of all the reshoots.
And that's all they're willing to admit. Because remember,
exactly,
it's been in production for 7 years, and it hasn't stopped really, even with the pandemic. They've been spending money every day on it.
Speaking of Superman Returns script, you're probably another point.
Same thing with Exactly.
It probably is hanging on to how many previous Flash productions that never got off the ground that they spent money on.
Well, there's only 2 prior to Machete coming on board, but the movie had been in development since 2014, if memory serves, was announced in 2017. And so we're looking at 6 years officially of this movie in production.
I think it was announced before 2017.
I was going to say, and I think I remember
before the release of Batman v Superman, and that was 2016. I think
you might be right there. It might be 2015.
I think so.
2015.
Yeah.
And not only that, I swear there was at least 1 or 2 other previous Flash projects that never got off the ground in the previous years around like Superman Returns and all the Batman stuff.
I know there's discussions, but I know that nothing was greenlit.
That may be, yeah.
Because remember, the Superman Lives, and even prior to that, the Superman 5 that Christopher Reeve had signed on to were technically greenlit, and they started spending money, and then they fell off the board. All of that was rolled into Superman Returns, which is why
we technically almost had another Flash in the George Miller Justice League too.
Yes, but that's not part of a Flash production independent of that.
No. But I'm just saying, like, that probably got tacked onto Justice League's budget, if anything, because that was the thing for what we're talking about, guys, because we didn't give any real context for that. But Superman Returns, the reason the budget was so high for that was because it actually had the budgets that were the money that was spent on Superman Lives and Superman Flyby tacked onto it. So that's why.
Yeah. And it should be mentioned with Superman Lives, this was the movie with Nicolas Cage.
They got like near
Tim Burton. And they had deals where they got paid their full salary as if they had spent a year devoted to the more, as Tim Burton, that he had spent 3 years making that movie. And Nicolas Cage had spent all the time shooting it. They got paid everything. because
Plus
of
the
they got
production
paid
costs.
whether it was going to be made or not. That was
Yeah.
Yeah, as a pay or play. That's one of the reasons. I bet you that was one of the main reasons why those deals went away soon after, because that was not a deal you normally saw in Hollywood after that. Because
Yeah.
used to be a
And-
pay or plays were kind of common, but not after
And
that.
Flyby was just a script purchase and immediate
Yeah.
cancel, and that was actually very cheap in comparison. I don't even think that
Yeah.
got 6 figures.
I don't think it went any farther than that. You're probably right. Maybe some very early I think there might be some previs or something like that out there, but that's about it, if that. So you're talking, very minimal spending on it. But no, the other part of Superman Lives that was a big part of the budget was they actually had spent it on sets and everything already too. Like that's the thing.
because
This
the
thing was
movie was
damn
ready
near
to
ready
go.
to shoot.
Yeah.
Right? Like they were like within days or weeks of ready to shoot. Because I'm sure most of you out there have seen the footage of Nicolas Cage trying on one of the suits. They had already built 3. He was supposed to have 3 different suits in that movie.
One had like Christmas tree lights in it that glowed up.
That's the
and
one that
everything.
most people have seen the footage of. And then the other one is the one I actually like, which is the more Batman-esque style of the standard Superman suit. And then he had the black suit.
Yep.
Actually, he might have had a 4th suit too, because didn't they have one that was a regular colored suit, but it had the S like he has in Kingdom Come?
I can't
Because
remember. Yeah,
that might have
David
been a-
Schnepp has the documentary on it that's got a whole bunch of stuff. So
Yeah,
check that out.
John Schnepp, you meant. Yeah,
John
yeah.
Schnepp,
And
sorry.
I just haven't watched it in a few years. It's an amazing, amazing documentary. You know what's sad about that is, lo and behold, I found out he probably packaged and sent that one that I got myself in the mail, which is
wow.
fucked up, because that's the way Robert said. He was like, he did all that himself. Yeah. Master Clockwork says, yeah, this is true, Master Clockwork, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I don't think that we'll be seeing Ezra Miller's The Flash again after this, but
I don't think so either. I
Yeah.
think this is as we were alluding to, this is someone who has a financial stake in this movie doing as good as possible. And as Script said, maybe they have a vested interest in staying in the Ezra Miller business. But I do not think that this in any way, shape, or form reflects James Gunn's intention. And James Gunn's intention is what matters here.
Yep.
And then Mr. Tickle Trunk says Babylon 5 is how you make sci-fi magic with no money. Well, is it still that cheap with all the sets and everything, really?
Well,
yeah, it was pretty cheap. It was shot.
Well, I
in,
suppose
like,
it's
a
all
hot tub
shot in
warehouse.
one. I was gonna say it's all in one main set.
I mean, the
suppose. Yeah.
cutscenes, they were all Super Nintendo level and stuff like that. If you go and you rewatch them today, PlayStation 1 at most. So it wasn't the most expensive, but still, that was then. Could you get away with that today? Of that, I'm slightly less
Well,
sure.
one of the things that it was still, even for a television show, sci-fi it was still relatively expensive, but compared to other sci-fi shows, it was considered very cheap. But they had interlockable and interchangeable set pieces, so that they could reorient the sets without actually having to build additional set work. So one hallway could look different because they changed the configuration of it because the set pieces could move. That was one way to make things pretty cheap, because you didn't have to build like a permanent standing set in one location. They had like maybe 2 standing sets, and the rest of everything else was just interchangeable stuff. That was pretty clever, because that's like a theater tactic. And who was it? I think it's like Monkey Jeebus has some stories on that. So, because I think he was around when they were doing that. But yeah, it was a really clever way to keep costs down and also turnaround time as well, because you go into the same building and it's just a different set there, because the guys have set up the new orientation. You don't have to go to a different location. You don't have a Planet Hell set the way Star Trek did back in the day, which every actor hated going to because it was always hell.
Yeah.
There you go. And then we've got Super Nate, who says, hearing a lot of praise for the new Puss in Boots movie all of a sudden. More than Avatar, especially. What's your guys' thoughts on... I'm not even going to say nothing. Because then I'll get accused of hating on Avatar.
I haven't seen either. The only thing I can speculate is that no one were expecting Puss in Boots. It came out of nowhere, and it blew them away by actually being a good movie. People are going to be a little bit more delighted than for something that was expected they knew coming a long time in advance. So it's going to be, I can see why it would be easier to be really excited about something like Puss in Boots.
I
And
think it'd be
by
doing
excited,
better.
I mean, like, feeling that, wow, that was such a surprise, you know? I think more people would have that experience.
Well, here's the thing. I've had a few people send me pictures of like their theaters only being a quarter, if not a half, if that even full for Avatar films. And I sit here and I look at the box office for Puss in Boots and all the praise I've seen it get, and actually have seen it trend. But again, that could just be because of things I follow and watch. But I've never really clicked on much as far as Puss in Boots goes. But it's not really blowing up the box office either. I thought it might give Avatar a little run for its money, but it doesn't have any theaters to play in because Avatar's in the rest. So they're going to be putting it on VOD before we know it here too.
Yeah, Avatar's in 4,200 screens still since it's
yeah. Well, it's because it was contractually obligated.
Yeah.
And this is what I was talking about when that one mom and pop theater owner was telling me that they get upset, especially because Disney would be this way with a lot of like their contracts, to where they are contracted to keep the movie in the big theater no matter what, even if they have another movie that's selling out in a smaller theater. And then if they didn't turn around and contract it enough for more theaters or whatever, or they don't have any more screens, then they're stuck with a movie not showing it to enough people in a big screen, and the movie that everybody wants to see not having enough seats. But then again, I don't know if Puss in Boots is selling out everywhere either. I'd have to see that. So that being said, yeah.
Most important thing is whether it be Puss
this
in
doesn't
Boots
help
or
either if this
Avatar,
is true.
As long as you've had a great experience in the theater, that's the most important thing. And exactly which movie you had a great experience with is of secondary importance.
Yeah.
But at least would be my take on it.
Indeed. And then we have, let's see here. Does this dress make my ass look big? Says Jeff Bezos, a Lex Luthor supervillain. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Alexa Luthor,
Runs
sorry.
the media and everything.
Alexa Luthor.
Yeah.
I fucked that up.
Yep.
Liam John Smith says, no offense, but Ezra is too ill to keep around. That's he's a liability. The reason you haven't heard shit about him in the press is because he's been kept like under wraps as best as possible, more so probably by his handlers than Warner Brothers.
Oh yeah.
So,
they took away his phone, I guess.
Probably. DeWall says, wait a minute, I'm trying to catch up here. Are they actually trying to connect the Addams Family universe with the Harry Potter universe? No.
So Algoff and Miles Miller are very good at marrying two different properties into a newer genre. So they took Dawson's Creek and Superman and made Smallville. They have taken Wednesday and Harry Potter or Addams Family and Harry Potter, and they've made Wednesday. Wednesday Addams goes to basically an Edgar Allan Poe freak school where there's supernatural people and other characters, which I think is a violation of the canon within Addams Family, but whatever. That's what the realm they're going for. So yeah, they're using the school of supernatural as the environment and inserting the Addams Family characters into that. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. That about sums it up. So it's not literal like Harry Potter. It's just that what if she went to Hogwarts?
Like Harry Potter is the world of magic, and what they did in Wednesday is the world of supernatural. So there's werewolves, there's sirens, there's Medusas, or Gorgons would be more appropriate, not Medusa, but the idea. There's ghosts, there's zombies, it's all sorts of crazy stuff that you never really saw in Supernatural because the only real supernatural element was kind of just Thing, and maybe to some degree Cousin It, but yeah, they do it. They went hot and mean on the supernatural elements of things with Wednesday and the Addams Family stuff.
Mm-hmm. And then Space Monkey says, "Happy Insurrection Day." Well, same to you, sir. Joe's Atmosphere says, WWE's longest contract is with Universal. Raw, yep, that's what I thought. Raw has been on USA forever, and WWE Network was absorbed by Peacock. Their biggest deals with Fox. Oh, okay. There you go. See, I fell out of wrestling years ago and was never that big of a fan, but I know a little bit about that stuff, but that's about it. Maverick Christian says, agree with Vincent D'Onofrio's fantastic acting ability. The guy is fracking chameleon with his different roles. Yes, indeed.
Yes, that's the best kind of actor.
Whoops.
Really.
And then Doppler Radar says Tom was wrong. Ezra is the Flash. Well, at one point he wasn't going to be again. But I think Andre has pointed out several times over, what's the sense in spending, throwing more good money after bad?
Yes.
And
also, in the hypothetical event, let's just say for the sake of argument that he should turn out to be the Flash going on afterwards. Does that mean that Tom was always wrong? No. Here's something really important to keep in mind. Tom's sources were completely right at the time, and then the world changed when James Gunn came in. Because, say for instance, that James Gunn decides, I really like what he did here. I want to keep him because fuck those fan people. Or, like, for instance, he showed up in. I'll give you this scenario. Who showed up in Peacemaker? It was Jason Momoa, who is rumored to have another role. And it was Ezra Miller. He also showed up in Peacemaker. And he might be like, I need to keep these guys around in some capacity, otherwise it's going to invalidate Peacemaker. I'm not saying that happened, but in that hypothetical scenario, something drastic has changed from when Tom did your reporting, and we reported that before. It was true at the time, and then something fundamental changed behind the scenes, and that threw everything into a disarray. And right now, no one knows what happens other than James Gunn himself.
And there's another
Gunn be planning it. He did not deny anything with Ezra Miller, which doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. A lot of non-answers and whatever. But no, like, here's another thing is that he could be planning on Ezra Miller for a different role, for all we know. Maybe he'll finally play the fucking Joker, which he's probably perfect for, to be honest with you. Not that I want to see him in anything, because I think he's, at this point, I think he's poisoned to be in anything. Much like Amber Heard, you're dumb if you keep him around, and I don't think they will. I don't think any of these characters. I don't even think his Peacemaker is as sacred as you may think it is, Andre, too. And this is just my personal opinion on this, right? Because I think that there's more than enough time for him to finish out his run with that. 2-3 years. That's 2-3 seasons more or whatever. So then what? Then you just start over fresh. I mean, sure, he'll keep his wife and everybody else around, certain actors. They'll just play different parts. I mean, who's to say Drax won't come? The guy who plays Drax, Dave Bautista, he's perfect for something like, tons of villains and stuff
Killer
like
Croc
that.
or Bane.
Yeah, or even
I think that I think that
Solomon Grundy was another one that people said last night that I thought was good.
Bautista said in another interview that he was offered something for DC that he had to decline due to scheduling. I'm thinking that maybe Bautista was like the first choice for King Shark.
You might be right in that, and I would make sense considering who made it, James Gunn.
Exactly.
So, yeah. There you go.
And Dune was filming at the same time.
Yeah, that's true too. But we already know the whole, like, the Lobo Momoa thing is probably one of the worst kept secrets of this whole ordeal so far because of Momoa putting that video. I think there's been enough, and I heard it before we started hearing the other ones. But again, just like I pointed out on 4K for you with the Rocky, rumor. It's like, look, this could be true because I heard it, and then another person heard it, and then another person heard it, but we all could have heard it from the same person for all we fucking know.
Exactly.
So, like, you got to keep that shit in mind too. So, yeah. But then John Evan Bear says, have any of you ever read the Lord of the Rings books? I'm rereading them currently on Fellowship, and I'm enjoying them so far. I've read The Hobbit more than I've read the other ones, but I think twice or 3 times in my lifetime I've listened to the audiobooks of the actual books, and I've read them, I think, once maybe. So yeah, that's probably it throughout my lifetime. Yeah.
Script, how about you?
I've read them a lot in my youth because I was reading Dune, Lord of the Rings, and The Hobbit in junior high and high school. So, and then I would read them every once in a couple of years. I probably due to read them again, but yeah, no, I've got them. I've got some really beat up editions of them on my bookshelf. So
As for me, I listened to the audiobooks.
Right.
I listened to the audiobook of The Hobbit, and I only listened like halfway through Fellowship of the Ring, and I couldn't be asked anymore. I recognize that it's great, that it's fantastic, but it's not for me. It's not like that kind of high fantasy is just not for me.
I've always,
So yeah.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but this might be what you mean. I've always said that the books are more like the stereo instructions for how Peter Jackson should make the movies.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You don't need every bit and piece in there because some of it's like in Spanish or whatever, but like, you know,
I agree.
you need
with
just enough to make it work.
Yeah.
All right. Then we got Darth Bobcat who says Batwoman used to trend on Twitter every week. Social media engagement can miss big hits. It can. Batwoman, I think, was more so paid advertised trending, or the other side of it, like we said with Trek back with the whole parrot analytics thing, is people were saying Star Trek sucks. Does that just counted as an impression?
Yep. Batwoman
think-
sure sucked.
And I would say a lot of people probably wrote hashtag Batwoman sucks.
I think that was the perfect example of Twitter is not reality.
Yeah, we've learned quite often that sometimes the things that are trending are more so advertised. But anyway, Master Clockwork says Wednesday herself is memorable. That's enough. Or memeable. Sorry, that's enough.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, no, I forgot all about the dance thing. I guess I should pay more attention to TikToks. Regal-esque says Ezra is behaving before he starts his next cult. Yeah, that could be true. Then we got Arthur Levisk here and doesn't say anything, just sends in $2. Well, thank you, Arthur. We appreciate that. Space Monkey says Warner Brothers is the most stupid company in entertainment.
I don't know about that.
Disney
I'd say-
seems to be leading the way on that.
Oh,
Really.
I was
yeah.
gonna say there's at least 4 or 5 more contenders before that, but not only that, just you got to remember, Space Monkey, a lot of this stuff is misinformation that's out there. There are a lot of people actively trying to make David Zaslav look bad.
And you have many people that instantly take the bait each and every single time, accepting everything as fact unconditionally, which isn't helping.
I don't think this is the same one. So if you sent in $2 donations, thank you, Arthur Levisk. If you meant to say something at 6 or Midnight's Edge, and we'll bring it up. Maybe you didn't. It wasn't letting it go through. I know how that works sometimes. Otherwise, thank you for the support. Oh, it's different. Okay, that's what I thought, 6. That's why I was saying maybe he wanted to say something that Google wasn't allowing him to. Jonathan Modus sends in a super sticker. Thank you so much. And it is a pair character doing a classic mic drop. Well, thank you, Jonathan. Then we got iDog here. It says, what do you think will happen with Joker 2 and the Reeves Batman? Well, Joker 2 is coming. It's done shooting them, or it's in the midst of shooting, I should say.
Yeah.
And that'll be out next? Isn't that supposed to be next?
That's going to be out for that actually. That could be here before we know it. I would not be too surprised if that came out towards the end of this year. Actually, hasn't been announced
For some weird reason, they got it slated for October 4th of 2024. Again, how the fuck can they get a Ghostbusters movie made that fucking quickly? Yeah, we can't get Joker till next year.
And that Ghostbusters hasn't started shooting yet.
Yeah, I
And
know.
This movie should have less special effects. Like, to me, it's unbelievable that they would film that and sit on it for 1.5 years, because that's what we're talking here. There's no reason why they couldn't have Joker 2 out for November of this year.
I bet you it gets moved up.
It's better.
Warner's going to need the money. That's that. The Reeves Batman movie, look, I get fucking a bunch of fucking pat heads coming at me every damn time I say something about the Batman. And all I'm doing is just passing on what I know or what I've heard. And that is that at this moment in time, there may be something to what Zaslav said about when he was asked about the Batman 2, and he says, oh, well, you'll see Pattinson in the Penguin. There's a reason why he said it that way. Just take that for what it is. Otherwise, the Batman was not the success they were hoping it was, and the fact that they're not fast tracking it like the Joker 2, I think tells you everything you need to know about it. And I'm not going to say anymore because every time I do, I get at least one asshat come after me. So, Script Doctor, I think you had a good take on it too. So it's up to you if you want to deal with
Well,
those
the only thing
fuckers
I'll
today.
Well, the only thing I'll say is that a movie that's in the early stages of development doesn't usually get a delayed release date. They usually get it pushed forward if it was a success. So there's that. Just think about that for a moment. That the politics of Hollywood is that the only way a movie is delayed and it's still going to be coming out is if they filmed a whole bunch of things for it. They haven't done anything. They don't even know if there's a script yet for the second Batman for Reeves. So the fact that they booked a spot and then said, "Oh no, we're delaying it," and they didn't establish a new date for it to be released, says in Hollywood terms, it's most likely not happening.
But what about then? I have to be the contrarian,
Sure.
just for the sake of those that want to scream right now. What about the Penguin,
Well,
which we know has been retooled in accordance with the wishes of Zaslav, presumably, or if not Zaslav, then his henchmen?
Well, I don't know about the retooling aspect, but I do know that there's something to what you're saying, Andre, from something I heard similarly, but we'll get back to that. What I do know is what I've been told before, and that was that the Penguin was the testing ground for the Batman. And that's where I had extrapolated that maybe, just maybe, they're considering keeping that for more of a streaming series or type of movies, because this is why I never believed, and I told everybody not to believe this rumor that and I believe this is one of the few rumors that I think James Gunn said not true to specifically, and that was Pattinson being brought into his DC universe. Because we know for a fact that Matt Reeves, that was one of his stipulations, is that his shit will never cross over with anything else. His was his own pocket universe. And that might have been its own undoing on top of the Batman only making $700 million. That's kind of what I had gotten from the situation. So I don't know if you want to speculate from there, Andre, from that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it depends entirely on how successful the Penguin is. If for some miracle the Penguin actually draws new viewers to HBO Max and loads of them, then any option is on the table.
And Six
But
gave me
if
the
it
exact
doesn't-
quote. It's entirely untrue. That was what he said.
Yeah. But I do not think that there's ever going to be the Batman Part 2.
I don't know if you're tapping or something, Andre, but it's like, yeah. There we go. Okay.
Anyway, I don't think
Must be
that-
bouncing your knee, I think.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, I have that same quirk.
Sound like it's accelerated heartbeat.
Yeah, it's like, holy crap, whatever's going on over there, it's like it's gonna blow up any minute now.
So just touching the desk with the mic on is like so hypersensitive.
So even though a lot of the Batman fans think I'm saying, oh, there's not going to be a Batman 2. I've never said that. Not once have I ever said there's not going to be a Batman 2. I said, I don't think there's going to be, but we'll see. That's the closest I've come to saying that. I don't think is not for sure. All I've been told is that a lot of it is going to rely whether or not the Penguin is a hit. And at this point, it could already be a dead thing because of James Gunn. And that might be why when Matt Reeves got his, 5 or 4 picture deal with Warner Brothers, they didn't mention the Batman being part of that deal. That could very well have been kind of the beginnings of that. And that's the thing is, even before James Gunn came into the picture, I was told that they weren't too happy with its performance anyway. Because you got to remember, this came right on the heels of Spider-Man No Way Home, and the expectation for it was expected to make $1 billion. Was it a hit? Modestly. But it didn't even make as much as BVS. So that was a problem. And it cost almost as much once you factor in the inflation and all that kind of business. So, yeah. Professor Gray says, can Flash make money even if it breaks $1 billion? Well, yeah, it could. But at this point, if we're going off of what Script and I were saying earlier, it's got such a high budget on it. It's got to make probably in the $1.5 billion range to actually break even and start to profit, probably, or at least over $1 billion.
Probably. And the only way I can see the Flash making or getting that high is if someone of the main cast passes away suddenly and it's their last film.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I don't even know if Michael Keaton's enough to get $1 billion worth of butts in the seats.
Not unless he's in every scene of the movie.
Yeah, and he's not supposed to be in all that much, but we'll see. They may change that. We'll see. Because that's the only thing I think is this movie's saving grace. I think even if the Aquaman 2 makes over, that's the thing is I think that's where we have our answer for that. Because it pretty much sounds like James Gunn has made his decision pre-Aquaman 2. Because Aquaman 2 could actually make more money than the first movie for all we know.
Yeah, and it's the last one on the old slate of those films.
But I don't think that's going to matter. Just like I don't, because at the end of the day, like look at when they announced James Gunn was the new president of DC Films, was the Monday or Tuesday or whatever it was, right after fucking, or was it right before Black Adam came out?
It was right after the
Friday
weekend
before
of Black Adam.
It was right before, yeah, right in that region. So like they already knew and made their decision at that point. They already knew that the Black Adam was not going to do what they needed it to do, and that kind of had solidified that, I think, at that point, that they were not going to go, because that was the kind of the thing we were getting, and that's been supported by a lot of these reports, is that Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca were on board with this idea of trying to salvage what worked, but basically do a soft reboot. That was the original plan, and that's what Andre said earlier about, I was right at the time, because that was the fucking plan. Like,
And it
even
was
Zach,
predicated on the performance of Black Adam.
I think that was a big part of it. Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah. Because that's
And
why
I
I was
think once they
laughing when
seen-
we were talking about, oh, it's coming out on October 20th, and I started laughing. It's like, yeah, it's not going to do what people think it's going to do. Like, and
Right. I was
lo
going
and
to say, I
behold,
think
that's
Warner
what happened.
saw the writing on the wall a little bit ahead of time, and they knew, because even the Henry Cavill thing didn't generate enough buzz for them to see what they, and that, of course, as we're learning now, was more on the part of The Rock and Danny Garcia trying to drum up interest for Black Adam, as we've learned. And Andre and I put out before in our earlier reports that, you know, he was trying to make it a hit so he could weasel in on the DC universe, for better or worse.
They were making one heck of an effort. Like, I commend them for that, because they were going hard.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was cool to watch. But unfortunately, yeah, it just did not resonate with the numbers that were needed. And, you know, the powers that be made their decision.
But yeah. And the Joker will just continue to be its own thing, because it just, as long as it keeps making money. The Way 158 has become a member. Thank you for joining us. And then we got Sean the Movie Man, who says Ann Sarnoff doesn't get enough credit for destroying the DC brand. She actively wanted to replace Superman and Batman with female versions. Worse than KK, in my opinion. Yeah, we've been drumming this in quite a few of our videos for a while to remind people. And that's the other thing too, is a lot of the decisions and stuff that were made under their umbrella is what got us here too, aside from Snyder in the first place. Yeah,
Absolutely. But here's the thing, though. Snyder was niche and did not win everyone over. But I think that DC would be in a better state if they had just released the Snyder Cut and kept going down this path, as opposed to what the Sarnoff regime eventually did, because they're the ones that gave us Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84, and that were going to give us Batgirl and this whole new thing right here. Had they gone with Snyder and the direction of Darkseid and the whole Injustice angle, that would have worked better. It would still be a subversion, wouldn't be quite DC Comics. Many fans would have huge issues with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I submit it would have been the, shall we say, less controversial option.
I agree. I 100% agree. And I think, but the difference though is, I still think we'd be on the cusp of this reboot, because at that point, if you would have just allowed him to play out what he was going to do, we would probably be just reaching the end of that storyline now.
Yep.
Most likely. And it definitely would have performed better than Birds of Prey and Wonder Woman.
I agree. Absolutely.
I have no doubts about that.
And we wouldn't have gotten the Batman or any of that nonsense. It would have just been the DC unit. And for better or worse, like I just said before, but I agree with you guys. I think a lot of fans would have been turned off on the one side, but not nearly as many as have been turned off. And that's what they're doing now. They're in like, and that's probably why James Gunn is like, there's nothing I can do with this, guys. And Script is right about, you don't want the baggage. And that's why I'm not so sure anything is going to survive this revamp. I mean, I think some of these actors will definitely come back, but I really don't think, I'm not necessarily so sure we're going to see any of these actors come back again as the same characters. Sans maybe the Suicide Squad stuff, just because Gunn's been so actively working on that, and he supposedly has already written part of that super secret TV show he's been working on, but we don't even know if that's related to the Suicide Squad. I only say that because we know we got that Amanda Waller series coming.
Yeah, he's got that. Apparently, he's completed writing the season 2 of Peacemaker, but that is being delayed for release. Was supposed to be being shot and released this year, but it's going to be next year's the rumor. And I think that's because he's probably working to try and get everything set up for the Superman film, so that that can go into pre-production while they're releasing some of their HBO Max stuff. Sorry.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Sorry, I had to handle something here in the background. Yeah, there you go. And then we got Hillis Mallory says, yes, the suggestion that computer and program have Picard walk out of the holodeck in canon and all was program brilliant. Now, I just knowing from what Robert Meyer Burnett has said about what he's seen, he kind of says they just kind of move past it. I don't think they really do anything else.
Well, it's 7 of 9 is apparently 7 of 9 is apparently in Starfleet now, like officially. So that would imply that the first 2 seasons of Picard still happened.
Yeah, that's my big worry, because then it doesn't matter to me. Then to me it doesn't matter, because then it's still Robo Picard.
Yeah, end it like Newhart. Have Picard wake up and he's in bed next to Beverly Crusher and he says, "I had this horrible nightmare."
Yeah,
and
do that.
And then she's like, "You want me to give you an anesthetic?" And just end it there.
Then I would have been won over. That would have won me over.
And then we got Shadow Dance of the Red Mage, who says J-Law time traveled to become her own grandmother. She is self-made woman. Yes, she is. She's her own grandma. Mario Trujillo says Star Trek is one franchise where it all was a dream. Twist would have fans thanking God. Yeah, but they're not going to do that, because you got to remember those same people who created this mess are still in charge technically. So they can't piss them off any more than they already are. Shadow Dancer, the Red Mage, a king, and I'm not making excuses. I just understand that part of it. And I'm not even saying that season 3 is going to be any good. Shadow Dancer, the Red Mage says, a Kang attempt to sue Kang Council for back royalties and copyright infringement. The countersuit judgment produces an incursion of the plaintiff's universe. She-Hulk, A at L deleted episode. Yeah, I wish we'd have grabbed this when Paul was still here. But there you go. There's an episode right there. Little
Kang versus the Council of Kangs.
Yeah, there you go.
You're all copying me. No, you're copying me.
Who came first, the Kang or the Kang?
It's like, well, it's a multiverse. It happened at the same time. Well, then there's no copyright infringement.
Well, in our world, that's your truth.
In our dimension, it's whoever's most popular. How many people are in your dimension? This many.
Mark DeShame said, as if we need more proof Hollywood has no ethics. Well, that goes without saying. Etienne Fellarudo is here and says, Wednesday is Monster High plus Addams Family, not Harry Potter. There you go.
I think more people know Harry Potter than Monster High, though.
That's probably kind of the reason for that. Plus,
you're probably more accurate with that description, though. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Same. That crowd that grew up with that is probably eating this shit alive. I'll definitely tell you that right now. Mecca J says, which actors do you think could play Gomez and Uncle Fester in Wednesday's show? No disrespect to the current actors, but they just didn't convince me. Oh, no. None taken here, at least. God, that's a good question. Like Javier Bardem or somebody like that would be a great Gomez.
He would be a fantastic Gomez. Yeah. And also, because from what I understand, Gomez is supposed to be someone who's from mainland Spain and very, very proud of it and considers that his ancestral homeland. Javier Bardem would fit that bill.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would recast.
Banderas would also do good, because pairing him up with Catherine Zeta-Jones again after the Zorro series would be a fun for fans of that franchise too.
Well, I was just going to say I'd recast her otherwise too, but that'd be the only way I'd probably keep her. You're right, because they actually do have chemistry, but I haven't seen the show, so I can't speak to the chemistry in the show. But as far as Uncle Fester, wow, who would you cast? Me?
You'd make a great Uncle Fester.
I could see that.
Gosh.
That's tricky. Maybe Charlie Day.
Jack Black.
Oh, not freaking Charlie Day for anything like that.
No.
Yeah, I just
Jack
can't
Black
stand
might
him.
be able to do it, but I mean, he'd be too Jack Blacky. I don't know. Uncle Fester's a weird one because even Christopher Lloyd barely pulled it off.
Had a hard time. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh. No, not Andy Dick. Christian Bale. He'd be a funny, weird choice. Yeah, not funny in the ha-ha way, but Jiminy Smits for Gomez?
Oh, Jimmy Smits? You know what? Maybe.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Stephanie, that's a good idea.
Carrot? Then she comes up with Carrot Top.
For sure.
Now she's just being a goof.
Russell Crowe has the body for Fester.
He does. He ate Fester. No. David Spade for if you're going in a completely different direction, maybe. No, David Spade would be awesome as like an antagonist for the Addams Family, like somebody's lawyer.
Oh yeah, he'd be great. He'd be Gomez's lawyer trying to get his money.
Yeah. Andy Richter, that's not a bad choice, I guess. But is he really much of an actor? Does he? Oh yeah, he did have that one show. That's right. Yeah.
He had the show Conan O'Brien wrote for him, and he can act. He was actually pretty good in Big Trouble, the Tim Allen comedy.
Not a horrible choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think those are about the best ones you're probably going to get unless you find a complete unknown like me. Like, seriously, I'm not even kidding. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but like, yeah, like you'd have to find somebody who just kind of fits the role, you know.
Paul Giamatti would be a good Fester.
Oh, God, yes. Yes. Perfect.
That's the best idea I've heard.
Yes. Because he could, yes.
Nailing it today.
Yeah, you're hot today. There you go. Paul Giamatti. Hell yeah. I want to see that now. Because I would say that's the sad part. I love Christopher Lloyd, but he's probably one of the weaker parts of the original films. Even though I love, nothing wrong with his performance. He pulls it off, like you said, but he was probably the lesser of the, like, I wouldn't have been the first choice, in my opinion. But anyway, Sean the Movie Man says, I am they 3PO, human pronoun relations. Ezra in Star Wars. We got Bert's ass here. Hey, Bert. Send us a pooper sticker. And then we got Sonic Times 2. Sonic Times 2 says, did you guys hear that the Wokies went after Jeremy Renner saying for fuck's sake.
I'm not surprised. What did he do wrong? Was he too
I was just going to say,
male?
oh, well, never mind. He got a divorce, remember? And then there was I'm not getting into
he
the
used fossil fuels in his snowplow.
No, there's a few. There's supposedly some discrepancies between him and his ex-wife that, I'm sure that people are. I don't know the truth at this point. I'll chalk it up to, he said, she said type shit or whatever. But I've heard he's a bit of a man. He likes the ladies. Let's be real. Saying he deserved what happened to him, and more. I'm beyond disappointed. It doesn't surprise me. It's like that same asshat that was in here earlier who went after Uche. They're dumb. Because not only that, I'm sure Jeremy Renner is a fucking full-blown lefty. They just don't realize it just because he's not like their standard.
Well, that's the problem, is that he's probably not lefty enough for them.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm beyond disappointed too, Sonic. It's ridiculous. I'm not surprised though. Then we got EVA Unit again, who says hashtag Minutes Edge didn't address Paramount falling when I asked earlier. Will they fall or continue to go stupidly stumbling along? Oh, actually no, they're in that upper as far as we're concerned. And you said hashtag go woke or broke. Really, outside of Star Trek, if you take that out of the equation and take everything else into factor, they're kicking some ass right now. They're kind of jumping ahead. They're doing okay with their numbers. They've got shows like Tulsa King, which is doing really well. I like Beavis and Butthead. I don't know how it did for their shit, but I mean, they've got stuff like that's not woke. Don't they have the sequel or prequel series or whatever it is to Yellowstone right now? And some other things that are
they got all most of the Taylor Sheridan.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing they don't have is like the first 4 seasons of Yellowstone or whatever it is, because that was a deal with Peacock or whatever. But not only that, Brian Robbins has been not afraid to license things out, and that's the way. And they've been kicking ass at the box office. Look at Top Gun. Didn't they produce what was it, Smile, or one of those other little horror films that did well this year? Was it that or Black Phone? I'm thinking of one of the two.
I think they did Black Phone.
Yeah, I know they did one of those, so they had that on their under their belts. Because that was a thing we were talking about the other night with, because we were talking about how Disney came out on top with 4.9 billion in revenue this year or whatever, but that doesn't account for their 4 billion in loss. And I said it's funny is because all these other studios that are underneath them all brought in more money from what few hits they had, and even probably Paramount made more money this year than Disney did, especially between Top Gun and the other small hits they had. So no, Paramount is doing a lot better than they were, and they got a deal now with Walmart, so that's helping Paramount Plus. It's like they're trying to work with them to like make their Walmart app like Amazon, and I think they're doing that with Paramount, is my understanding. So no, I don't know what you guys feel about that, but I think under Brian Robbins' leadership, they're under a good direction compared to some of the other studios, especially Disney.
It's absolutely heading the right direction. Still a far way to go, but there are some good moves being made there.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, they're knocking it out of the park, but they got brand new life because of Top Gun and what few things they got. Like they're the home of Taylor Sheridan shows and all that kind of shit. They got some things under their belt now, and South Park is another thing they'll have whenever that deal completely evaporates from Warner Brothers and shit like that, so they can actually put the whole show proper on there. So there's stuff they've got under their sleeve. They've got all the Nickelodeon shit too, we always forget about mentioning. So, you know, they're like one SpongeBob movie away from another hit. Who knows? Didn't that last one do really well on streaming? And I was like, why the fuck didn't they release this in theaters?
Did they all do really well?
This last one, well, yeah, no, this one, though, I don't think they released in theaters, though. It went straight to Paramount Plus or whatever. I'm like, well, that was fucking stupid. Because they could have made a couple $100 million easy off of that. Everybody loves SpongeBob. I'm not even a fan, and I know what SpongeBob is. Megwing Zero says, I don't understand the push to make Reeves the Batman to be the beginning of the DC film universe. It was half a good film, and I don't get it. Yeah, it's not going to be, but yeah, there's a lot of people who were into that stuff, and you know, there was some good things in it, and there was some really bad shit in it. And Script and I are about on the same page with it being the worst Batman movie ever. I don't know if Andre agrees with that.
No, Tom, you know the answer to this.
Well, you never really quite answered that specifically, but
about the Batman.
Yeah, well,
the first hour, but the rest it was.
Yeah.
I liked the first hour, and then the subtext made its appearance.
Well, is it worse than Batman and Robin to you? Because I mean, that's the gold standard for the worst Batman movie.
Yes, because from the moment.
Okay, well then you're on the same level as us now.
And they double down. Yes, it becomes the worst Batman movie, and that's such a tragic shame because up until that point, it's the best Batman movie.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go to that extent, but I mean, there's things about it that I think worked until, about halfway through, if that.
And then it all fell apart. But when it did fall apart, it fell apart bad and fast.
Sorry, Polly sent me some video here. I don't know what it is, and I got an ad playing here. Sorry. So yeah, there you go. Mega Wing Zero. That's part of it's just you got you got the Pat heads, which are those who are the Pattinson fans, and those who just enjoyed the movie a lot, and they're wishing and hoping for that to be the case, and they're also the same people who don't like to hear that the fact that it's never going to cross over. So Matt Reeves does not want it to be anything but its own thing. And with that, I think we're caught up, Andre.
Fantastic. So with that, I would like to say thank you to everyone for joining us in the live streams this week. Do check back because there's going to be some regular scripted videos over the course of this weekend. Until then, head on over to Cultured Casino for his Friday pre-flight show, and also check out Cultured Casino's channel in general. Link is in the description. Same thing with Script Doctor, and make sure to check out his Patreon, which is, of course, is also in the description. Script, anything in particular you would like to plug on the way out the door?
Yes, if you sign up to my Patreon, you'll get a nice collection of articles and essays already out there. I recently reviewed an NBC procedural pilot that'll be debuting in a few weeks, and I'm also going to be reviewing a Pete Davidson pilot that's supposed to have Joe Pesci in it. I'm going to be doing that over the weekend. So if you sign up to my Patreon, you'll be able to read my coverage of that and get some couple tidbits on those shows prior to their debut. So very much appreciate your support. Everyone that has signed up for Patreon, I'm very appreciative of, and I hope you're all enjoying it. And if you have any questions or what have you, you're feel free to tweet me or send me a DM at ScriptDoctorPhD.
There you go. Kenneth Dowling says, hello, guys. Just stopping by to contribute to your great channel. The Nolan trilogy to me is the best. Well, there you go. I don't know about the best, but that's my opinion anyway. Yeah, I like The Dark Knight quite a bit.
I like Batman Begins.
Yeah, that has its moments. Yeah.
No, I do too. I actually have an article I'm working on for the end of the month. Does The Dark Knight have a communist agenda?
Oh boy, you just want to get attacked. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's just a fun little play.
We better
it's
hope.
Really for entertaining purposes, mostly as opposed to
Ask Mad Mardigan how that turns out. He did a satire review of Top Gun Maverick and called it like the worst movie ever, and he got like destroyed because of it. It's like it was a fucking joke.
People took that seriously?
Yes, people took it seriously. Yeah, because just for context, Andre, like his big beef with the movie was there was no volleyball scene.
Football is inferior to volleyball. Okay.
Yeah, like he went on this long diatribe, and people took him fucking seriously. He's like, to this day, that's my most viewed and attacked video.
That's awesome.
Not really, because he's done a lot better shit. I feel bad for him because he's actually a really great editor and shit. But yeah.
Ah, well, it happens.
Not enough volleyball.
Stuff like that happens. That's just an
anyhow. With that, Andre, anything we got to plug on our way out the door?
Just check back for regular videos over the course of the weekend and go and raid Cultured Casino.
Yes, do that. And with that, it is time for
some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koala, koala, koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koala, koala, koalas in the rain.